just fantastic.
That's good, I guess.
I got a bridge for you if you believe it.
Or I didn't catch that. You want to sell me a bridge?
Bridge I could sell you if you believe it. And I'm great.
I think I caught your meaning.
Yeah. All right. Shocker. I'm a little behind. Body is not playing well today with me.
Sort of like the butcher that accidentally backed into his meat grinder.
I hate to say it, but it's a similar vein, if you will. That said, let's start our sharing, albeit
You have a guest signed up?
I do. And we are live on Facebook currently. There's your warning.
Okay.
There's your friendly warning. Yes, I do.
Good.
Our guest, especially for you early folks, our guest is Dr. Judith Higgins. She is the Democratic nominee for the Pennsylvania State Senate from the 28th District. So there we go. So we are doing our sharing right now. This is always painfully exciting. The focus on painfully. As I mentioned a couple seconds ago, shocker, a little bit behind. My body's not having a fun day. My body's not having a fun week. I'm it's gonna be interesting if I am able to get back to work, how that's gonna go. This body doesn't really want to work. Okay. So we're getting there. Might be a tad late to the radio audience, but we are moving through here pretty quickly. How is everyone at the Messerschmitt homestead?
That would be me and Thomas.
Correct.
We're fine today.
The whole crew.
Yeah, the whole crew, right.
Everyone all right?
Yep. I think I may have told you a few weeks ago, I think I had a case of the COVID.
Why?
Endured about 4 days of it. Very unpleasant, but it got better.
Well, you know, the CDC this past week, very, I think, significantly and not without pushback from some doctors, relaxed its guidelines, I guess. I think I have that right. As far as if a school-age child attending in-person public schools were to come down with COVID, and I'm pretty certain that I have this correct. I'm always happy to get corrected. if I do not have it correct, but that even if they were to test positive, that they can stay in the classroom as long as they wear a mask for a certain duration of time. I find that somewhat concerning, but okay. They're the experts, not me. That said, the interesting thing that comes of that, why I mention it, is the revelation inside that report that the CDC now believes that 95% of the country, of the population of the country, has some form of COVID immunity, whether it be through vaccination or having had the disease and getting over it.
Sounds encouraging to me.
That it, yeah, it is. I still don't know if I want a COVID positive child in my classroom. But I can understand the thought.
Well, on this subject, Jeff, I've had some some thoughts, and I wonder if the focus on the actual virus and how to deal with it maybe obviates what I believe could be societal problems, especially in youngsters, because of the 2 years of interruption of a normal life. Think that's possible?
Yes, I think that's something that's going to continue to shake itself out, so to speak. I think some of that is simply, we can't put our fingers on how that's going to manifest at this point, but I do think there is a lot to that thought. And I think it will continue to manifest itself. But as the depth of it, I cannot, I don't think I can put my fingers on at this point. Okay. Wow, we got about 60 seconds before we go on the radio. Hello, Janet. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you're still there. Hello, Mom. Thank you for being there. Probably from the road, I should think. Actually. Okay, we will be live on the radio here in a moment. I think. If I did everything right. No guarantee of that. I would say we are under 60 seconds, roughly. About 5:01 we go, we give the radio audience a chance. Just that extra 60 seconds. So we will be live on the radio shortly. All of our Facebook sharing is done. Well over 100 shares again this week. We're thrilled with that. So we will be with you. Join our radio audience in just a few seconds. Could be an interesting show because I don't feel great. So let's go live on the radio, shall we? In 3, 2, and 1.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know, young enough to do. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight? A loyal man who brings a job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed? It's wrong. To which we must be true. No, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? Will measure him against the others and when you compare. You'll cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's over. It's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome from my humble second bedroom here in what we have sarcastically, affectionately come to know as a Bethlehem landfill township following the outright purchase of our township council by the Bethlehem landfill through Citizens United inspired massive campaign contributions. It's cool though, I guess, sort of. It's kind of like naming a stadium, isn't it? Bethlehem Landfill, of course, a wholly owned subsidiary of Waste Management, which now owns our township. You know, it's the wave of the future, right? Fascism. We represent corporations, not municipalities, and not ourselves anymore. Anyway, in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley Indian Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in these United States on this planet Earth, the only one we have, third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect, live with you for the 14th of August, 2022. It is a fantastic weekend here in the Lehigh Valley. It is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous here. Warm, terribly intense, bright sunshine, but dry, not humid at all. Just it's interesting. I mentioned to Kristen this week that I think this was the week that you could really see that we turned a bit of a corner. And I can remember being young many, many moons ago when we still, used horse-drawn carriages and such. There was always that like one day or that one night that felt different. And it kind of felt like you changed seasons, or that you knew the change of season was coming. And that kind of happened to me this week. I went to take, what the heck was I doing? I've kind of forgotten now. I think I went to take, the garbage up to the recycling and so on. And it was about 20 minutes before 7. And the sun had already disappeared behind the next row of houses. And it was essentially dusk. It was not dark, but it was dusk. And it just occurred to me, wow, we're getting there. Summer is definitely, there are more summer days behind us than in front of us. And it really felt different. And then now the last 2 nights, we've actually been able to sleep with the windows open. We still had a fan on, but turn the AC off, open the windows, and just had cool, dry air in the bedroom all night. And you can only do that during certain times. You don't do that in the dead middle of summer. Certainly not the summer that we've had, where it's been, either proper triple digits, or at least felt like triple digits for almost all of July. And so it's just been interesting to kind of be taken back to those times when you're younger and you just kind of remember, that one day that you find yourself stepping back almost from your own self and taking a look around and going, wow, man, it's not like really summer anymore. It's not June and July anymore. We're creeping up on fall. We're halfway through August. And to think of where 2022 has gone is really something amazing. I mean, really is. I mean, we're entering quickly. I mean, in another 2 weeks, we're going to be in, well, yeah, almost 2 weeks, a little over. We're going to be in the final quarter of the year. And given that this is a largely political program, I would like to think not exclusively, but largely, to think that that's really when campaign season is thrust into overdrive. That's when the kids return to school. Most of your vacationing is done for the populace because the kids are back in school, if you have children. But usually your quote unquote summer vacationing is done. And it's when campaign season really kicks into gear. Now, let me tell you what's coming up today. And I'm expecting her at any time, and I will explain why our guest is not quite here yet. Our guest today, if you read the header for the program anywhere on Facebook, you'll already know this. For our radio audience, you will know. That's on phone. Okay. You will understand that. So our guest today is Dr. Judith Higgins. She is the Democratic nominee for the Pennsylvania State Senate from the 28th district. That is the York County, part of York County, and in that general vicinity. And I told you that I was going to open up the program to candidates, state level and federal level, from anywhere in the United States, from now to election day, to the Sunday before election day. And so Dr. Higgins is one who has taken advantage of that. We've had some candidates actually jump in from the state of Oregon who will be joining us later in the summer. From around PA, we've invited candidates from Wisconsin, Missouri, Florida, Texas, New York. I feel like there's other places that I'm forgetting, but I know that that's where we have so far. But let the clarion call go far and wide, as I have done across Facebook and all of my social media. If you are a state or federal level candidate from anywhere in the country, anywhere, the show is open to you. And I hope that you will take advantage of it, because I know that candidates, by and large, are desperate for media coverage. And and this too, Republican candidates, you're welcome here. We're not going to disagree on things, I can tell you that, but we will have a respectful, honest, truthful conversation, as I would like to think that we do every week. And you're welcome here. There's nothing to be afraid of. We don't name call, no gotcha questions. I'm not going to stand on top of the desk and scream and yell and make it all about me. I'm certainly not going to Tucker Carlson you either. But, you'll get tough questions. There's no question about that. You're going to get pushed back on your positions, but you will be heard, you'll be listened to, and you will be respected. So I hope that every candidate in all 50 states and all the territories, anywhere that you might be, will come and join us. And again, any side of the aisle, I'm happy to have Republicans on this program. I'm absolutely thrilled to have them. And so let me just say that. Dr. Higgins, I think, is trying to get in. I believe she may be on the road. So I was going to tell you why she wasn't here. She is campaigning today, as she should be. So I knew that she was not going to be with us right from the top. So that is kind of why we're doing a little bit of our business and just having a general, what I hope is a general and relaxed chat to start the program. Let's do a little business, shall we? We have shared the program to over 100 places across Facebook yet again today, and I am honored by that. I'm humbled by it. I believe our very first program went out to about eight, like 6, 7, 8. The one before 9, the one after 7, not 80, not 18, 8. Take you less than 2 hands worth of fingers to tell you how many. Today that was 102 in 3.5 years. The Hot 101 audience was somewhere in the 50,000 range when we started. It is now about 110,000. That is not all my doing. I'd like to think we had a little bit to do with it, maybe a little bit, but certainly not all our doing. The great DJs that have joined Hot 101. So this program continues to grow, and everywhere that we share it continues to grow, and that's a really, really good thing. So if you are any of the 102 group pages, people that have allowed us to share our program to you again this Sunday, thank you, thank you, and thank you again. We could not do it without you. We could not be here if you are not there. With that said, if you are in any of those 102 places and you wish to continue to watch right where you are, please do so. Stay right there. Listen in the background, have dinner, watch, whatever's most convenient for you. However, if you would like to join us, interact with us, ask questions, drop comments, etc., 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 please come to our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. Our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. My sisters and brothers and friends and family at hot101.net, we are honored to be with you yet again. To all of you, literally around the globe, wherever it is that you may be listening, thank you for allowing us to be part of your Sunday, or I guess, depending on where you are in the globe, Monday. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your day. If you do not know how to listen to hot101.net, it is extremely simple. Our name is our web address. You can go to hot101.net and listen through the main website on your desktop, your laptop, your tablet, your phone, your smart speaker, Bluetooth it through the car, Bluetooth it to another type of Bluetooth speaker. However, there's no way that you really can miss us. Whatever device or however you decide to listen, we will be there with and for you, and you really need to check us all out. We appreciate being part of the hot101.net family. And of course, you can tell Alexa to play hot101.net. If you have an Apple device, you can go to the Apple App Store and look for hot101.net. If you have an Android device, you can go to the Google Play Store and look for hot101.net. I'm fixing the camera quickly. And then if you have any other type of device like a Google Pixel or LG, things like that, go to the TuneIn radio app and you can find hot101.net there. Just go to the search bar and look for hot101.net. And of course, our friends and family at TCP, the Culture Professional morning show, I believe returns tomorrow. I keep saying that every week. They're taking a vacation and they deserve it. But I'm guessing maybe they'll be back tomorrow. I hope so. Regardless, I hope they're having an excellent time, relaxing and taking care of themselves and hopefully staying healthy and so on. But we all deserve a little break now and then, don't we? So that is basically gets us all set up. Now, I do believe that Dr. Higgins is in the room on the phone.
Good afternoon.
There she is. Okay. Well, welcome to the program, ma'am. Thank you. Are you on the road still?
No, I literally just got home.
Oh, it's been one of those days, has it?
It certainly has. And it was a great day. We did a lot to get done. And I said, I need to get home. And I've got my dogs laying in my lap who are just being quiet. And I'm so thrilled.
Well, I
'cause they
feel
usually aren't.
deprived that we don't get to see uh, those smiling dog faces, or at least them napping. We always enjoy, I'm recalling really several different episodes of the program, especially at the height of the pandemic and the stay-at-home requests, um, where we would be doing the program and you would hear some barking. Somebody would come in for
Mhm.
looking for a treat, quick lick on the face,
Mhm.
cats going across the screen and keyboard. And I just think that's the most natural, funny thing I think you can do. I mean, when we're doing this stuff from home, what do you expect to happen? It's life.
Exactly.
That's going to happen. But anyway, again, let me introduce our guest. She is Dr. Judith Higgins, the Democratic nominee for Pennsylvania State Senate from the 28th
Correct.
state senatorial district, which is York County and lots of other municipalities. I will let her tell you about that. So, Dr. Higgins, thank you for accepting our invitation and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation. As you said, I'm trying to represent the 28th. Currently, the incumbent is Kristen Phillips Hill. We ran against each other when it was an open seat 4 years ago, when Scott Wagner stepped aside to run for governor. And for a first showing, we did really well, but clearly some things have changed since then. The 28th has been redistricted, and instead of having 4 Senate districts in York County, we now have 2. So from York City North is 1 district, and the 28th is from just below York City to all 3 borders is the 28th. So we go over to Adams County, that includes Hanover, we go down Maryland line, and we go over to Lancaster.
So has your district gotten more? Well, what is the new? Let me say it scientifically before I'm skipping my normal opening question, but since you brought it up, let me just ask this before I forget, because I'm old and I forget stuff. Has the district, what is the new distribution of your district? Has it become more red? Is it more blue? Is it more neutral? Is it more unaffiliated? What does the new 28th look like compared to what it did a year ago?
The 28th gained Hanover, which tends to have a mix. Sometimes it's a little more red, sometimes it's a little purple, which we'll live with, but the voters are more consistent. The city has a tendency of showing up for the federal elections like the presidency, and we are probably in a cycle of elections every year. And so we need to continue to reach out to the voters in the city to ensure that they do show up for the primaries and the general elections for all the elections. So I think we've got a little more blue, but not necessarily a significant difference.
Well, let me back up to what I normally open the program with, what has become our traditional, I don't know if I should say standard, it sounds a little boring, but at least our traditional opening question.
Sure.
And that is, who is Dr. Judith Higgins, and how did you get here?
Well, that is an interesting question. We moved to Pennsylvania about 31 years ago. I live in Lower Windsor Township. I've lived here the entire time. My husband and I met in the military. We're both veterans. We've been married for 34 years, and we raised our 3 kids here. All 3 of them graduated from Eastern York High School. We're very proud of the district. I spent 17 and a half years on the school board there, and feel like I really have a good sense of the educational demands of schools and what parents are looking for property tax relief and senior citizens for certain. So balancing that discussion out versus what the state is doing for funding has been a challenge for me for quite a while. But I think it's a fight we need to take on. I have a bachelor's degree in public policy, a master's degree in human resources, and my doctorate is in adult education. I taught for Penn State for about 20 years in business and management. And I was one of the few female instructors that were up there teaching in that particular department. So I really got a chance to help young people understand, and returning students, non-traditional students, really get a sense of women have a role in this world of business and could be quite successful at it. I have my own small jewelry business. I do make, I cast pewter. And if you think back to when you were a kid and you collected like the little donkeys and cactus and the little pieces that were for sale at the dime stores and whatnot, that's pewter. And it's about 90% tin alloy, and it is non-nickel, so you don't have to worry about it turning green or turning your skin green or breaking you out, which is one of the things I'm most concerned about, is keeping people healthy. And we've done a number of street fairs, and I enjoy being creative. How did I get here? I was concerned when the seat was open for so many months and York County had no representation. I didn't think it was fair. Nobody was watching out for us. Governor Wolf was in office, so at least there was, a few people who were. Stan Saylor has been even as a Republican, has been a wonderful asset to York County. I was very sad to see him leave through the loss of the election, because he fought for York County, all of York County, not just one group or a small group, but for all of York County. And so when I lost, I was like, okay, well, that happens. That's on. So I was concerned because I didn't really see her as finishing a lot of anything. And I'm saying that because in looking back, she had started at Dallastown School Board and quit that to run for the legislature. And she was a House of Representatives for 2 terms. And then she decided that she was going to go after the Senate seat. And I was like, okay. So, I've been watching her voting record and just didn't feel that things were going the right way for most people. So when the elections came up again, I had also learned that she was one of the senators who had signed the letter to overturn the Pennsylvania elections. And that is very disturbing to me as a veteran, because that is what we have fought for. That's what so many have died for, is to have the right to vote, the ability to think that your vote counts. And why all of a sudden does one person's lie throw out everybody else's vote? Why wasn't she questioning her election? I said, no, this is totally unacceptable. I have since learned a few other things, but since I don't have all the details, I'm not going to share it at this time because I want to be based in fact.
Isn't that one of the most interesting things about all of this election denialism, this myth, this mythos, this fog that has been this curtain that has been drawn over our elections, is that the literally millions of voters across the Commonwealth, they only cheated on one line.
Right.
The ballot that elected your opponent, the ballot that elected Deputy Doug, Senator Mastriano, Mr. Corman, and so many just frightening levels of what we used to call Republicans, really more corporatist and fascist at this point. History shows it. History defines it, really. It's only
Oh,
that
absolutely.
one election. It's only that presidential election that was dirty. Even though their names are on those ballots, those were clean. The same
Right.
ballots. That was good. That was okay. Only the ones that we didn't like the outcomes of. It's not something, isn't that interesting? It's not something special. You got to be
Well,
the level of conspiracy that would have to have been involved in that would be something along the lines of the Manhattan Project.
or bigger.
I mean, how does your
That's kind of
opponent,
what's happened.
yeah, how does your opponent answer that? Or is it
Doesn't.
what, or has it, is it for her what it has become for so many of these self-identified Republicans that just, it's chum in the water, kind of riles everyone up and keeps their focus off the fact that we're stealing what little wealth they have left.
I don't know that I would go that way. I think it's all about power and control.
But why do you want power and control? Money, generally. Either for yourself or for the people that own you.
Intoxicating. Power is intoxicating. And there have been many people who started out with all good intentions who let the power go to their head and controlling other people and being able to say, I did that. The problem is that she doesn't do a lot. And I had a conversation yesterday with a prominent Republican who basically shared with me that her chairmanship on the Senate's broadband committee was useless. She did nothing. And so it ended up Stan Saylor, Doug Hoke, and Governor Wolf making sure that York County got taken care of for broadband. They're currently putting out to bid, I want to say it's like $23 million for York County for broadband. Now, if you live down in the Delta area or any place in Southern York, I've had so many people say, yeah, I have to go out to 83 to call my company in Lancaster. It's embarrassing. And having just come through the pandemic with the need for remote learning, the need for remote work, it should have been the highest priority, in my opinion. So this individual shared with me that because of her lack of engagement and lack of doing anything with it, that he will not support her anymore.
Publicly?
I don't think he's ready to do that yet.
Yeah, that's convenient, isn't it?
He did share it with me, and I do know he has a sphere of influence that's still pretty big. And I can live with conversations over lunch or whatever that say, you know, I've met her opponent and I can support her.
Hope so. That
We have
these bouts of honesty are becoming all too rare. For all of the Liz Cheney voted with the Trump agenda 96% of the time, but yet she has emerged as a national hero. In the words of one of the Capitol cops, and I can see his face and I'm forgetting his name right now and I'm embarrassed at that, but if you go back to the very first January 6th hearing where the Capitol Police, I think there was a half dozen officers that they had testify live, and the gentleman read his statement and said that Ms. Cheney and Mr. Kinzinger are being hailed as national heroes. Why? Because they're telling the truth.
I never
And they
thought
deserve
integrity would be a limited.
Right. And he goes on in that statement to say they should be congratulated for being part of this commission, for agreeing to take the spots, for wanting to get to the bottom of what happened that day. But when did we become the country that we celebrate people as some type of national conquering hero for simply doing upholding
their
to
job
that they swore to uphold, and actually one of my favorite lines, doing the job instead of holding the office.
True.
5:31 Eastern Time. Quick reset. Our guest is Dr. Judith Higgins, the Democratic nominee for the Pennsylvania State Senate from the 28th District, which is the York County area. If you have a map handy from wherever you might be listening around the country and around the world, you can quickly have a look at that. Wherever you might be on Facebook, we've shared the program to over 100 places. Please feel free to stay there and enjoy. And we appreciate every single individual, group, and page that allows us to be part of your little corner of the Facebook universe. Thank you for being here. And thank you for allowing us to share us with you, so to speak. We could not be here if you are not there. If you would like to engage with us, a quiet chat so far. It is a summer Sunday. It is a little quieter during the summers, but we are here. If you would like to interact with us, drop a comment, ask a question, etc., 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 you know where to find us. It's our home group Facebook page. That other side of information, you will see the video right there. Tap on it. It expands on your screen. And then that's where you can find the ability to comment and share the program. And we hope you will choose to do both. Hot101.net, our name is our web address, Apple App Store for Apple devices, Google Play Store for Android devices, and the TuneIn Radio app for all other types of devices. You can also Bluetooth us into your Bluetooth speakers, and you can tell your smart speakers to play Hot101.net. And TCP, the cultured professional from Lancaster. Look out for the morning show tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure our recording is still going on Tuesday nights, and we were bouncing around the ideas of changing nights, but I think we're still on Tuesday nights. So, Dr. Higgins, you mentioned that you found yourself concerned about actual representation in the district, and I can tell a little bit that you're concerned about the direction of the political party formerly known as Republicans. Because considering your doctorate, we may end up having either an agreement or disagreement about this. I don't actually consider Republicans to be a functional political party anymore as much as they are a corporation. But there are lots of folks who are concerned. Why take the extra step to say, I am going to jump in and be the candidate, and not just the first time, but a second time?
I would say in addition to the fact that she signed to turn over our ballots and say they were no good, which, as I said, as a veteran, is just totally unacceptable, is that she has been the co-sponsor to the constitutional amendment to ban abortion for all reasons in Pennsylvania. And
how does the party that's supposedly based on freedom
which
take
is
that
really
point of
unusual,
view?
and pro-family, but once the child is born, you're on your own. There are
not only that,
very
but
few
punished most times in this Commonwealth.
Yeah, there are very few safety nets that are truly sufficient for supporting a young family the first year, for example. Between medical costs and just trying to get everything together. I mean, if you've ever been a parent, you remember the first year, they really don't come with instructions. You can have people who can give you some ideas, but each child is different, and that's wonderful. But choice means that you have an option with your medical provider to decide what's going to happen with your body. And to me, I am old enough that I have fought for Roe v. Wade already once. And I cannot believe that in this life I have to do it again. But I will. Because the young women who are coming up have never had anything but choice. Now they're looking at banning birth control. They're looking at banning IVF. So those people who want to have a family will be unable to secure the support and medical services they need. We're looking at people who, the story I heard yesterday was just, devastating. The woman was down in Glen Rock, and she had a miscarriage. The baby died. She went to her doctors to find out if she could get a D&C, because that's all there was left to do. And he said, no, we're going to have to wait until you find another physician because I'm pro-life and I won't do that. And she's going, there's no life. It's a DNC. He refused to take care of her.
Also, just a small little, just a slight. I must use a very wrong word. This particular doctor ignoring the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm, as we know, dead tissue in the body will lead to the death of the mother.
Yep.
So
He
that
had to wait.
Hippocratic Oath thing, we just throw that out the window when Christian Sharia law is involved?
I have no idea, but that was the one step that President Biden did take to say that you must provide emergency services to anybody who comes to the hospital and is in need of medical services until the person is no longer in any medical emergency. So that does take care of watching women bleed out, to be blunt, and to have to worry about necrosis setting in and all those kinds of truly disgusting things. I guess there's no consideration for a woman's previous children and the fact that they will no longer have a mother if you decide that, you want to play that card. And I frankly have a huge problem with that. And I think a lot of people do in Pennsylvania. Last time I looked at the numbers, it was like 73%. So why are they doing this? Because it's a way of controlling women. And frankly, I think I am at least as equal to pretty much any man I've ever met, at least in some ways, and I'm perfectly competent to make my own medical decisions in accordance with my doctor. I have no idea why legislators have waded into this mess and tried to create the challenges for women and their families at this point in time, because it's ridiculous.
Let me put a postulation up there. If I just didn't create a word, I hope I just didn't create a word. It's something that I've mentioned on this program a lot of times before, and I actually was going to ask you this straight out, but let me approach it from this point of view. And I can't claim that this is entirely original thought. It's definitely a thought that's been or was in my head, and it happened that really Senator Sanders put it, I think, in much better language than I was able to construct myself. A candidate who was to take the stage, take a debate stage, walk through the rows in between shops and food stands at a county fair, can't exactly stand up in front of a group of people and say, and really not just any candidate, let's be blunt, candidates running under the Republican banner at this point, can't stand in front of a group of people and say, I want to end, if you're a federal level candidate, I want to end Social Security. Not cut it or restrict it or raise it, end it. Just end it. We want to end Medicare. If you are a state level candidate, we want to end Medicaid. We want to end public education. We want to suspend all infrastructure spending. Your own schools, figure out how to pay for them. Frankly, we don't want public education. If you can't afford an education, you don't get one. The higher education system becomes entirely profitized. In Pennsylvania, we've already profitized tax collections. The unemployment system has been largely privatized. We continue to privatize schools at an alarming rate. 40% of the school budget of the city of Bethlehem is now charter schools.
Wow.
We make every effort to make you pay for health care but not give it back to you, because that wouldn't be profitable. So what Republican candidate can actually take the stage and say that to pretty much any voter, including the most MAGA voter you can think of, that has a pulse, and expect a vote back in return? So what do we have to do? They're coming for your guns.
Mm-hmm.
We need to end abortion. Beware the black and brown person who might be within several feet of you, because God knows they want to rob you and take your job. Drill, baby, drill. Does that theorem, if I'm using the word correctly, make any sense to you, especially given the level of your education and your doctorate? Does that make sense to you? What Republican can stand in front of people and say all of those things and actually expect anyone with a brain would vote for them?
Well, you've got a couple of assumptions in there. First of all, that they're thinking, and that they're not just following the lead of saying, vote for R. Now, the fact that we no longer have straight voting is beneficial, because that means you at least have to take your time to go through the entire ballot to vote, which I think is beneficial, because people may say, I don't even know who this person is, and they may not vote for the person because they haven't done the work to introduce themselves to that voter. Your point is well taken, because if you think back, when have you ever heard a Democrat say that they were going to go take your guns? It's never happened. The one thing that most people will agree on is that AR-15 and military-grade weapons should not be in the hands of civilians. They just don't belong there, nor do the large capacity
Clips.
Thank you.
The
My
magazine.
brain just left.
No, look, it
Magazine.
happens to me all the time. It's going to happen to me several dozen more times throughout the program. We'll help each other.
Thank you. I have a good friend who was trained to shoot by his grandmother, went through all the NRA programs, believed in the fact that the NRA was there to teach gun safety, hunting safety.
I remember the old days when they did stuff like that?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that was a very positive thing for our community.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped young hunters learn that they were making, if they were bringing the weapon up, they were making a mortal decision to take that animal's life. They knew that, and they respected that. They don't do that anymore. The NRA is all about, we're going to
Profit.
do this, we're going to do that, and you can just, throw some more money.
This is not a popular stance, Doctor, and you don't have to agree with it by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a outright open, don't make any bones about it, don't hide it, frankly don't defend it because I don't think I have to. I don't think history shows that I have to. I'm a New Deal Democrat, I'm a Kennedy Democrat, it's in my name. I'm a Great Society Democrat, moonshot, progressive, name it. The roots of our party. And in one of the what I think are many examples, too many, and examples that we don't use enough, when we try to speak to our fellow human beings who happen to just drool all over the NRA and bring up the facts that they do not promote the safety programs that they used to. And I can remember as a child, my dad got the American Rifleman. He was a lifelong member of the NRA. There were safety articles in every single magazine. There were children's safety courses. You could, father and son could do. They don't do any of that. They are a lobbying arm for the industry. They have become a group that funnels foreign money into elections, and its sole purpose is to promote the sale of weapons. And in one of those ideals of fairness, I tend to bring up the AARP, who has become very similar on the other side, selling insurance to seniors, including Medicare Advantage. So why do you suppose it is so hard to reach some of those folks, the NRA can do nothing wrong group?
They're ingrained. They will not listen to you. They have you. I have one gentleman that I have known now for 5 years, and he is a veteran. He is a very well-respected veteran in York County, And when I introduced myself, he goes, "Oh no, Kristen's my girl." I'm sitting there thinking, and what has she done for veterans? She'll show up at a couple of dinners, and she might help serve, and then she'll take a few pictures and she leaves. But what has she actually done for veterans? We still have homelessness. We still have the issue of suicide. We still have the issue of there is not enough VA support services for the people who have served our country, who now need us to serve them.
Especially when the Commonwealth is holding on to somewhere between 11 and $13 billion of federal money.
Oh, I have to share.
Refusing to spend it.
Absolutely priceless.
Right.
When we closed down Memorial Hospital in York County and they built the new UPMC, I kind of sat there for a second and I said, what would be really cool is if they took the old Memorial Hospital and turned the first floor into a hospital and took the second 2 floors and turned it into housing for veterans. And I had this great idea. I said, this could be so wonderful because they've already got, the building is in place.
Right.
It could be upgraded and turned into this, that, and the other.
Right. The bones. The bones of the building are already there.
Yes. You know what I was told? No, it sits on a swamp, so we can't do that. And then 3 months later, it's announced that they're going to be luxury condos.
What's wrong with a building sitting on a swamp or a pipeline going under a farm field or aquifer? What's the difference?
Convenience.
Profit?
Probably. Because VA
See,
hospitals don't bring in tax money.
And this is why I pushed back a little bit earlier, because I do think this discussion happens. I think, and it happens a bit too much to possibly disagree with you in the most respectful way possible. I think Democrats as a whole, really from whatever end of the blue spectrum you're on, whether you're super light blue or really dark blue, I think it's all too convenient to say, and I think somewhat dismissive at times. Not in a disrespectful way, not even in a lazy way, but just that, they all want power. But what do you get from that power, Doctor? What comes with that power?
The ability to help more people.
If you have it, yes, but if your opponent continues to get reelected and just gains more and more and more power, what does she get with that power?
Well, I have heard.
Maybe just in your opinion, because
yeah, it's my opinion, and I have heard this rumor, is that her aspirations are to take the governorship. And
why would she want to do that? I'm definitely leading somewhere in almost a courtroom type way, although I am no lawyer, and I try not to play one on the radio. But it seems to me that I've begun to use this phrase a lot, and I'm actually repulsed by it, but I've yet to come up with a better one. We really do need to realize on our side of the aisle that this isn't just about power. It might be about the title. It might be about, going to that occasional rubber chicken VFW dinner and have them laud over you, and the attention and the seeing your name in the paper every day. But let me throw another possible thought out to you, especially with your education, to see what you might think of this one. Any regular listener to the program knows that I don't generally refer to the Republican Party. I refer to it in name as a reference point, but I don't believe Republicans to be a functioning political party at all any longer, in no way, shape, or form. The RNC, just a few months ago, I think it was in the spring, made an actual vote, which means they took an effort, they took time, and consciously voted to have no national party platform. The platform is essentially whatever Mr. Trump is thinking that day.
Right.
So there's no real leadership in the party. There are higher elected officials than others. There's no real, if you were forced to say who the leader of the party is, I think you'd be hard pressed. to come down to just one. So if you have no platform, no leadership, no guidance, no future, no plan, what does that make you? In my mind, it makes you a corporation. So why do I say that? It seems to me that folks like your opponent, all the way up to Senator McConnell, are the employees in the corporation. They get paid, and they do what the owners want. They generate wealth for the owners. The best investment in the country is a politician. It can be as high as 10,000 to 1. And it seems to me that that really is all that's left as a, I hate to say it's even a policy, but as a raison d'etre for Republicans is how much money can we return to the people who have given it to us? And it would seem to me if your opponent is one of those folks, because it seems to me there's really 4 parties in Harrisburg. There's the dozen or so Republicans that control everything that happens in the legislature, and it might even be less than that. There's a small but growing group of Democrats who actually want to govern and legislate. And then there's a group of Republicans where that dozen or so kind of waltz them into the room and say, here, push that button when we tell you, and then you can leave. And sadly, there's a group of Democrats that do the same thing. They come in, they vote against things, and then they run away. Because we don't want to say anything in public, we don't want to piss anyone off that we might not get reelected. Because it's just nice to be here. Tell me what you think of that entire mess of thoughts there, that salad of thoughts.
Well, you bring up some good points because every lobbyist is looking for a return on investment, whether it's through legislation or fewer controls. And I think that was one of the things that the Republicans were talking about was removing barriers and making sure that they were lessening the restrictions on corporations. Well, how many of you have toxins in your water? How many of you have had effluent that showed up at the edge of your creek and it smelled really nasty? That's called, your budgetary alignment is to ensure that the funds are not there to protect the water, and that's intentional because you can keep people from being hired to do inspections and to enforce the law that's on the book that says, you know, we don't want people to have to drink toxins. We don't want them to have to worry about it seeping into their groundwater and then coming out of their faucets. When they were talking about the problems out west with the natural gas coming out of people's faucets, I was like, what in the world? Why aren't these being inspected? Well, if it's not a budgetary concern, you don't fund it. So yeah, well, it's a return on investment.
Environmental protections are very costly. They're not profitable, are they?
It depends. Have you paid for cancer treatment lately?
Well, people pay for cancer treatment, not fossil fuel companies.
Well, but so do corporations pay for cancer treatment because if they're
not as much as they should. It's very, you know, a lot. Some of these cancers are beginning to be declared pre-existing conditions, in which case they're not covered. I can't wait. I just had this discussion last night with Kristen and her family that I can't wait to see the 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 million people who end up with long COVID. And months and years from now down the road, the health consequences, many of which, we do not even understand yet. But insurance companies, assuming they still exist at that point, will begin to declare a pre-existing condition. We're not going to cover any of that. Forcing the public, so to speak, to cover it. These things, it just seems to me that this whole idea of, well, they just like power. But what comes with the power? If you have no platform, what comes with the power? And it would seem to me what comes with it is profit. Money.
I could agree with that.
the billionaire class in this country, again, to borrow a phrase from Senator Sanders, the billionaire class in this country and outside of this country, to be fair, and pockets outside of this country, have decided, it would seem to me, democracy is no longer convenient for profit. And if we have to end it to continue to not just gain wealth, but extract it from others, then that's fine. Because if we have all the money, we can buy our way out of it. And I think we're seeing that right here inside Pennsylvania as much as we are across the country.
When I first ran for this office, I went in and talked to the chair of the Democratic Party here in York County, and he looked at me and he said, "Are you prepared to spend $150,000 to try to win this seat?" And I looked at him, I said, "I don't have $150,000. And he said, "Well, that's what it takes to go after this seat." Well, I spent $55,000 in the primary and the general election. And I said, I think we did a pretty darn good job. We did a lot of door knocking. We did a lot of, free people helping. And I kind of thought about it. I said, becoming a politician is all about having enough money or access to enough money to be able to buy your way into the seat. And so when
a direct result of Citizens United.
Yeah, when John Fetterman makes the comment, you can't buy our congressional seat, Dr. Oz, he's quite right. That's what they're trying to do.
All a direct result of Citizens United. All a direct result of Citizens United when a Republican Supreme Court created law out of whole cloth and said that money equals speech.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it interesting, Doctor? I'm wondering what you think before we get to the top of the hour and I reset yet again. If money equals speech, and we are guaranteed free speech under the Constitution, which presupposes the fact that speech is equal. But if money is not distributed equally, which it is far from, the 3 richest people in the country have as much wealth as the bottom 220 million. How can money be speech?
Depends on who's giving the definitions.
Or who's buying the definition.
Right. Pennsylvania has been run for the last 40 years in the legislature by Republicans.
When you tell people that, when folks come up to you and say, some of the more, sorry folks, some of the more intellectually lazy and stupid things like, you're all the same. Or because they know Governor Wolf is a Democrat, they think Democrats then control the legislature. And they're pissed. They're angry about the state of their lives. They know something's wrong. They know it. And then you look them in the face with a calm voice and a direct eye contact, as I assume that you do, because I certainly do it, and I'm not running for anything. And calmly tell them, do you know who's been in control of your legislature for the last 40 plus years? Republicans.
What's even easier.
And then you say, tell me what you think of that. And then, what happens? Do you get the, you're full of baloney, or do you get shock, or do you get dismissal? What happens? The number of folks who don't understand that, to me, inside this Commonwealth, I'm gobsmacked by it.
The biggest thing is they don't understand that there are 3 branches of government. The governor does one part, but the group that controls the purse strings is the legislature. The legislature purse strings have been controlled by Republicans for 40 years. You notice we've had virtually no property tax relief. We've had only corporations get tax breaks so that they can attract more business. But we're not going to pay for education, which will attract more business and industry when you have an educated, prepared population. We're not going to take care of the environment because
it's expensive.
Healthy people, if you have healthy people, you don't have as many upfront costs. You don't have to clean up the environment to be able to put in your business, and you don't have to worry about some of those issues. So it really, you need to have people take a step back and say, look at a little bigger picture. Who controls the pocketbook? The legislature. It's not the governor. It's not the court. It's the legislature. And they've done nothing for the people of Pennsylvania, for a lot of us.
Not to mention
First,
that
you've done well.
this Commonwealth continues year after year after year after year for decades now to spend more money on prisons and imprisonment than education, and we continue to give $3 billion plus free dollars to the fossil fuel industry every single year. And then we have the audacity to complain about gas prices.
And then they blame President Biden. Just amuses me, sorry.
If the Republican legislature is so willing to spend, so unwilling, let me correct myself, got ahead of myself, sometimes my brain goes faster than my mouth. If the Republican legislature is so unwilling to spend money, did your opponent reject the pay raise?
I can't remember. I don't think so. She does reject the perks, at which point I've responded to that one by saying, you had a husband who just retired from WellSpan as the director of IT. So I don't think you're going to have to worry about retirement funds. And the second side of that is, so does that mean that only rich people should be allowed to take a job that has benefits, but you're going to deny everybody else the right to take them because they may need them?
Or denying a simple raise in the minimum wage, but you continue to get regular pay raises in the dead middle of the night when no one's looking.
Oh, don't even get me started on minimum wage.
I want to get you started on that. That's why you're here. 6:03 Eastern Time, wherever you may be around the globe. It is 6:03 Eastern here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is the Kennedy Effect live with you for the 14th of August, 2022. We are halfway through the month of August. Summer pretty quickly coming to certainly heading, the train is around the bend, let's put it that way, heading toward the close of summer. It has been a glorious weekend, by the way, here in the tri-state area. We were in New Jersey yesterday. It was gorgeous. It is a gorgeous day today, a bit warmer, but very dry. The sun is extremely bright and very strong still, but yet we've been sleeping with the windows open at night, and it's very refreshing. It feels very nice. So you're kind of getting there. Sorry kids, school pretty soon. Wherever you might be across the Facebook universe, this is the Kennedy Effect live for the 14th of August 2022. Stay right where you are. Well over 100 shares this week, and we are grateful for every single one of them. Please remember that you can, and we invite you to do so, share this program. Anything off of our page, to be honest with you, to any of the friends, family, your own personal timeline, any of the groups that you might feel appropriate in your corner of the Facebook universe, please feel free to do so. It is one of the ways that we continue to grow the program is through word of mouth, and it doesn't mean you have to agree with us. But if you get anything out of the program, even if we get you all wound up and you yell back at the radio in disagreement, and you feel it appropriate to share the program around, we invite you to do so, and we ask you to do so, and we ask you to be part of this program as well. So you can stay right where you are, wherever you might be watching. If you want to interact with us, the chat has been absolutely silent. Very interesting. We had a very lively chat earlier in the summer, pretty much here in August. I guess everybody's vacationing. It has been very quiet. But if you would like to join that chat, ask a question of myself, of Dr. Higgins. If you'd like to agree with us, disagree with us, he tried to say, please feel free to do so. Come to our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information. That Other Side of Information, it's called, and you can be a part of the program. We will open up phone lines later in the program, not now, later in the program. If you miss any of this program, the best place to go in addition to any of the places that we have shared across Facebook, is our YouTube channel, which is also called That Other Side of Information. You can always find the program in its entirety. Phone callers, all of it, any audio, any video, you find it at youtube.com, That Other Side of Information. We invite you to check that out as well. To our friends and family at hot101.net, thank you for allowing us into your world again on this Sunday or Monday, depending on where you are around the globe. Apple App Store, Google Play Store, hot101.net, our name is our web address, TuneIn Radio app, and of course TCP, the Culture Professional from Lancaster, PA. Dr. Judith Higgins is our guest. She is the Democratic Pennsylvania State Senate nominee. That's a mouthful for the 28th District. Doctor, as a veteran, I find so many things about Democratic, big D Democratic candidates, party members, officials, etc., 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 who are veterans. How? Because let me try it from this standpoint, because I got lost in my own thoughts there. I got all jumbled up about how I was going to ask this question. I got all jumbled up. The flag and the military and police and freedom has been so co-opted by the right that you, as a member of the Democratic Party, you couldn't possibly be a veteran or have served with any level of distinction or honor. Have you found that being a veteran has been an asset? Do you get some of, especially the more staunch red hat Republicans, you couldn't possibly serve in the military, you wouldn't understand what it's like, you don't know anything about freedom and duty, etc., etc. What does it mean to be a Democratic Party person, member, candidate, and be a veteran?
I am very proud of my service. We are 3 generations of military veterans in my family. My father-in-law, my husband and I, and our son is currently serving in Guam in the Navy. So I have more than a little bit of passing familiarity with what it means to sign on that dotted line. And what's really interesting is that most people respect me. I've had very few, and they've all been men, who have been dismissive that, a girl in the military, and that was always interesting. The second one that I got was, I literally had a gentleman yell at me. I was talking to somebody in Wrightsville, and we were at one of the, it was like one of the little festivals that they have down there every once in a while, and I was talking to somebody, and I mentioned I was a veteran, and this guy kind of circled around, and he looks at me absolutely aghast and goes, "You're a Democrat? You should know better." And I'm just sitting there going, "Excuse me?" And my great niece was with me at the time, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm fine." I said, "I don't know what his problem is, but my service is just as honorable as his, and I probably was in longer than he was." I can't believe sometimes that people react like that, because they've got their preconceived ideas and I don't fit. But when you come down to it, I've been on C-130s, I've been on 141s. The first unit that I was assigned to was a refueling wing up in Maine, and the rest of them were all C-130s. But if you want to see an aircraft that has some amazing capabilities, the 130 is it. I can talk about how they would do short field landings. They would go in, get people, get them out, and that's what mattered. They were the workhorses for the Air Force. The fact that I was affiliated with them gave me a great deal of pride that I could support them, the air crews, and the people who were required to be there to make sure that everything stayed safe. I have never been embarrassed by the fact that I was a veteran. I will claim it proudly, and I will continue to stand up for the rights of veterans. And if somebody is Republican and feels that, I am not sufficient to do that, I would like for them to explain to me why. Because I would disagree with them wholeheartedly.
I would never ask you to go into the deep, dark corners of such a brain as Mr. Mastriano's. But by all reports that I have read, and I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. Every week I will tell you that, folks. If I get something wrong, please tell me. I'm happy to learn what I do not know. But by all indications that I have seen, Mr. Mastriano served with distinction. He was discharged honorably. There were never any issues about his service. For someone like yourself, again, generations of service to the country, how do you explain, reconcile, insert correct word here, the fact that he served as well, and yet is willing to see the fundamentals of the country he served be ended for all intent and purpose? I find it fascinating that the gentleman is running to run a government he does not believe should exist.
It's legitimate. It's legitimate. Yeah.
How does one... You served in the military too.
Yes.
I mean, if one of those dreadfully odd events should happen through the course of this campaign where the two of you sit and have a cup of coffee, how do you discuss something like that with either him or any veteran that you might run into through the course of your campaign that either was in DC on January 6th or at least was rooting from the sidelines? I don't know how you wrap your head around that. In fact, I can't wrap my head around it to such a point I don't even know how to formulate the question, but I think hopefully you understand what I'm getting at. But it seems to me that your military service is properly antithetical to actively working to end the American experiment.
I would agree with that statement. I actually met Doug Mastriano 3 years ago at a festival. And the first thing, first of all, I'm about 5'5". I'm not super tall, but I'm not super short. He's about 6'2", 6'3". He's a big guy. Well, I also happen to have a son who's 6'5", and a husband who's 6 foot, so height really doesn't faze me one way or another. And the first thing he did was to try to intimidate me and get in my personal space, and I didn't move. And I thought, if that's how you're going to treat women, that's like half the population.
More than
just like come in and act like you're, all that, and you're not.
Women are between 55 and 50%, or 55 and 57% of the American population.
Well, good.
So more than half.
We have fast forward to the past president and his total lack of respect for the military. To be standing next to General Milley at his son's gravesite and say, "What a bunch of losers."
Yeah, you're the suckers.
The biggest slap in the face.
Yeah,
I could ever imagine to do that to him.
The 2% of the population that actually serves, you're the suckers somehow.
Yeah, and I remember just sitting there feeling like I'd just been gut punched. I was like, how dare he? The man who had bone spurs and couldn't, be in the military. Again, money talks. But
so let's take it back then to what we were discussing last hour. If Mr. Mastriano is running on the Bible and flag in his military service, but yet would end...
It's a lie.
would end the government as we know it, would end the nation as we know it. Where does that, I mean, is that it's certainly not an idea that I would like to think. This is not an idea that came to him while he was in the military. How do you square those? How can you possibly square those two things? Your military oath.
Yeah, the military oath is huge. But right now, the composition of the military, as I said, my son is in the Navy, the number of people who are Fox News watchers, who believe the stuff that's being sold, that the young officers had to sit down and say, okay, we've now been in the Arabian Sea for 8 months watching Iran and Iraq. This was in 2020. And they had to make a decision on how they would handle an immoral order. It might be a legal order, but it was an immoral order. And they all decided that they would do their best to resist or drag it out to where it could not be. Certainly, they're not going to risk the ship. But they're also not going to do something that's going to put the United States at risk of, further escalation. And I thought, what a conversation to have to ask these people who have already been separated from their families for 9 months, 8 months at sea, and to say, think of your oath, think of honor, think of integrity. If those don't fit in that square, then what do? We're not going to do it. I respect them. Yes, they would probably end up being prosecuted, but I think in the end they would be justified as well.
And what a position to put. I don't know how old your son is, and it's, to be quite honest, none of my business. And but when we think about the folks who enter the military predominantly, obviously not exclusively, but predominantly, 18, 19,
yep,
20, maybe. Folks tend to normally enter the military directly after high school, not usually after college, but of course not exclusively. In a nation of 330 million people, there are no broad brushes, but
right.
Imagine the pressure of any ship, any battalion, any company, any air wing of service people, 18, 19, 20, having to sit down and go, what do we do?
Yep.
If this guy says, send a nuke to Beijing, what do we do? Teenagers having to make those decisions. I'm not saying your son's a teenager or was a teenager at that time, but again, if we think about the preponderance of folks who, especially when they first enter, having to decide what then? What do we do then?
And so many of them have bought into the Fox News line. And the officers are finding it very difficult to have conversations that are, why would you think this is going to be beneficial to your family? Why would you think it's going to be beneficial to you to believe this when it's clearly been disproved a lot in multiple states, not just one? Because this is a lie that has been sold, and they're trying to resell it again. It's a little frightening.
And again, the only thing that I can think of, the only thing that makes sense to me, is the combination of all the things that we've talked about before. Because Republicans have no platform to run on, they have to use the daily outrage. And I know that it's I always forget the name of the gentleman who brought up who kind of coined the phrase of the argument. The first one who raises Nazism loses the argument. We have to remember what Goebbels taught us during the rise of the Germans, even Mussolini to that point. There has to be a daily outrage every day, and the one tomorrow has to be worse than the one today. and the the thought of the daily outrage is to distract,
And
while
for
the
people
richest in the country continue to take money right out of your pocket. Because we're no longer at the point where the rich are just earning profits in their own money. They're extracting it from you. They're taking money from you. And not just in the form of you purchasing their goods. It's simply that you're paying for things that they won't pay. There has been a 50-year transfer of wealth, $55+ trillion, from the bottom 99 to the top 1%. And the only way to distract you from that is the daily outrage. Trans kids, black and brown people at the border, gay marriage. I mean,
critical race theory.
critical race theory, which doesn't even exist except in a very select handful of
Correct.
universities that so many of these Republicans went to. I think we tend to forget that we tend to conveniently skip over the fact that Mr. Cruz and Mr. Hawley went to Ivy League universities, or that Senator Scott was convicted of the largest Medicare scam in the history of the country.
That don't matter.
This is for power, and this is for power. Yes, I think Dr. Higgins is correct. This is for power. But what does the power get you? Get you money. It gets you money and money and money and money and more money. It really isn't any. When you're on a campaign trail, Doctor, and you confront, and that's probably more of a forceful word than I mean to use. One of the ongoing discussions that we have in this program between Kristen and I, between just about every single guest that we have, is the idea that the most ardent, the most strident, the most habitual Republican voters are exactly the people who have been most screwed by them. How do you have those discussions? If you even believe that supposition, and I get the sense that you do, how do you have those discussions?
When you ask people what keeps them awake at night, almost always it's the economy. It's their pocketbook, it's their kitchen table items. And when you start asking them what kinds of things would make a difference, more money is always the first answer. When was the last time we increased minimum wage from $7.25?
It'll be the
1992, something like that. It's been a long time ago. And they said, yeah, but everybody's getting paid, $12 to $15 now. I said, but think about it. What if things start going back to the way they were? Do you want $7.25 to be the floor? Because, I'm on the Affordable Housing Association here in York County, and we try to work with individuals to get them into homes so that they have that peace of mind, that safety, think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the ability to feel safe, the ability to meet your basic needs is what most of us are able to get past, but a lot of our population cannot, because they're held at the $7.25, or the rent has gone up to, $1,000 a month, and they're only making $11,000 a year on Social Security. It just doesn't work. So when I start talking to them about that, they go, yeah, but I can't afford to pay the grocery store $15 an hour. And I said, every boat lifts when the tide comes in. And they start kind of thinking about this as a bigger picture that includes more of their neighbors and not just them, to try to say, okay, who's helping me? Well, the governor tried to, during COVID, of saying, we're now going to give a child tax credit. The federal government supported it, and as soon as it got looking like we might be a little healthier, they canceled it. That didn't take care of the need that still exists today. And I would say probably the food banks are even more wiped out now than they were because the food chain hasn't caught up. Supply chain hasn't caught up.
Isn't it interesting how the red hats? Interesting. I just popped in my head how they were red coats during the Revolution. As we continue to fight another one, I guess. Now it's the red hats. Isn't it interesting how the red hats seem to have forgotten, either by indoctrination, the continuing abuse from Fox News, or just convenient wink wink forgot, that the original shutdown of the economy happened while Trump was in office.
Yep.
The expansion of unemployment benefits began when Trump was in office. In fact, he was quite vocal about the fact that he didn't think it was enough money. 2 stimulus checks went out under Trump.
Correct.
So how is this all our fault?
But it was supposed to be gone by April. Remember, it was just going to vanish.
Well, right. As soon as the administration found out that the overwhelming preponderance of people dying from COVID were black and brown people, it wasn't a national emergency anymore. And that meeting is very...
For it in that the ratio of Democrats to Republicans, it's about 10 Republicans to 1 Democrat that died as well.
Agreed. Red counties suffered way more.
Tremendously.
And continue to do so, actually. They continue to do so. Do you have you found yourself having any hopeful conversations?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. People are seeing that there's some progress being made. I am basically a very optimistic person.
God bless you. That's one of us here.
That's the way my family is. We've had a lot of challenges and adversity. And if you continue to just move forward and say, you know, it may stink right now, but you keep looking for the ability to make it better. I'm a 3-time survivor of cancer. So you have to be an optimist to believe that you can do this. I can do this. And I spent an hour on the phone today with my great niece who's 27, who was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And I said, because if there's one piece of advice you could give me, what would it be? And I said, it's okay to be nervous because you don't know what's going on, but do not be afraid. You know that there are people out there who will help you, the doctors, the nurse managers. Life is like that. You find the resources, you ask the questions, and you proceed on the best you can. You don't let the fear overwhelm your ability to be rational, and you stay optimistic. And that's what I'm doing. I'm being optimistic that we can turn this around, we can get the 8 seats in the Senate, and we can take care of the people of Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth needs a new focus, and it's got to be people, because that's what makes Pennsylvania so great, is the people.
Have you had hopeful discussions with some of the red hat?
No, they don't talk to me. They'll literally walk past me and carry the Mastriana signs, and I just smile and have a good day. I'm not going to engage them. It doesn't work.
I have been... I've taken more than a tiny bit of abuse for this allegory, and it might be accurate, it might not be. But, you know, for a man like Mr. Mastriano, who likes to wrap himself in the Bible yet live up to none of it, even God himself made Moses and the Israelites wander the desert for 40 years until the generation that had defiled God by worshiping the golden calf died off before they could enter the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
Is the red hat that generation?
I hadn't thought about it that way.
Are they so far gone that they cannot be reached? Partially because they do not want to be reached.
I could agree with that, actually, because that was when we start talking about, who we're going to be door knocking or lit dropping or whatever. We start talking about the people and how they vote, because we have access to statistics and whatnot that say, okay, this person has voted in every presidential election. This person has voted in every election. And when you start seeing who some of the strong R voters are, that those are not in any way, shape, or form persuadable. And you just don't spend the time.
Has our party spent too much time trying to, quote unquote, reach out to that crowd?
No, I think right now the focus is on making sure that people know that the Democratic Party exists, to invite them to step up and to participate in making sure that we get the blue elected. And whether it's, making phone calls or hanging literature on people's doors or talking to your friends or inviting your local candidate to your, tea party or whatever, to make sure that people know who these folks are and to support them. The hardest part right now is to run at the same time that Shapiro and Fetterman are, because there's huge support behind those two men, as there needs to be.
I don't think there's any shortage of, and we should make every effort. I can't stress it enough. Every effort, from whatever the expense may be that we can afford to spend, that the unaffiliated, the independent, there is an actual functioning group spending money on advertising called Republicans for Shapiro. Those folks we should be talking to. Because, at a minimum, and this is something that I have actually counseled candidates to say verbatim if they wish, that when you look that person in the eye, they know there's something wrong in the country. They know
Absolutely.
There's something wrong in the Commonwealth. And that Mr. Habitual Republican voter, Mr. or Mrs. Habitual Republican voter, but yet maybe not the red hat type. If I listed 10 issues, I bet you and I agree on 5 of them. At a minimum, 5. Probably more. But because I have a D behind my name, you won't vote for me. Why? I think you're smarter than that. And I think you're better than that. And I think you deserve better than that.
Conversations going on this year.
Sorry?
I really do believe there are more of those conversations.
Oh, I hope so. I really, really hope so. I do think the red hat crowd is gone. They're lost. They will wander the Sinai for 40 years. I think that's done. But everybody else, I think, is fair game. I just think sometimes we, as the big tent party and the only functioning political party left in the country, we tend to overthink we need to reach out to those folks. No, we don't. Because they don't want to hear from us. They would just as soon shoot us as anything else. But everybody else, the unaffiliated, the independent, and the Republicans who know something's not right, then and right not being a pun, by the way, that they know something's wrong with the country. They know something's wrong when 3 people have that kind of wealth. They know something's wrong. We need to talk to those folks every day of the week about anything. If they want to talk about how hot it is outside, I'll have that conversation. Because that builds relationships. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yep, absolutely.
6:35 Eastern Time from the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is the Kennedy Effect, live with you for the 14th of August, 2022. Wherever you are on Facebook, feel free to stay right there, but you can come to our home group Facebook page, that other side of information, and talk to us. Fern dropping some awesome comments in the comment. I will try to get to them with Dr. Higgins here shortly. I will open up the phone line later, not yet. Later, not yet. as well. Hot101.net. Our name is our web address. Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and the TuneIn Radio app. And you can tell Alexa to play Hot101.net. And TCP, the cultured professional from Lancaster. Look out for the morning show tomorrow morning, and look for us on the Roku channel. I believe it's still Tuesday evenings. I think I have that right. You would think I would know when my own show airs, and sometimes I don't. Dr. Higgins, what else? If you had... Well, you told us a little briefly about your district when we started the program, but tell folks either in parts of the Commonwealth who may not be familiar with your area, anywhere around the country, anywhere around the world, tell us about your district. Tell us about York. Tell us about your slice of heaven, in that south central corner of Pennsylvania. Tell us what your area is like.
It's very beautiful. We are just north of Maryland, so we are very accessible to Baltimore, to Washington, those kinds of areas. So there's a lot of opportunity to travel. I would say York City is a fairly good, it's not Philadelphia, obviously, but it's, I think, a Class C city, so it's not real big. The area around here is fairly rural. We have a lot of farms, some large manufacturers like Harley-Davidson still exist, Caterpillar. We have a lot of under 50 employee type businesses. We used to be a manufacturing hub, but that was pretty much shipped overseas. So we're now trying to recover from that.
Intentionally. Yeah, intentionally shipped overseas. Yeah. Much by design.
You can look at the fact that when 401ks were created, we lost a lot of business. People were supposed to pay for their own retirement, and the ability for some people to be able to save anything has really been a huge hit for this area. So we have 80-year-old people who are still working because that's the only way they can stay alive.
Again, also intentionally by design.
Yep.
50 years of regular.
We have a lot of union activity here, which I think is going to be the saving grace for the county. Governor Wolf is from York County. Wolf Lumber Company was what his family started, and he stepped away from it when he started running. The family took it back and has been running it, I think, pretty much ever since. He has, of course, stepped away from it because he didn't want to look like there was any conflict of interest in any way, shape, or form. I would say there's like 13 school districts. You've seen at least one of them make national news. Central York had the book ban that made national news. And that was pretty ugly because it turned out that of the 3 pages of books that the school board banned, most of them had never been read by the school board. So how they knew that they should be banned, I have no idea.
Well, Tucker Carlson probably told them.
Yeah. They were things like the story of Rosa Parks, the story of William Goodrich, who was at one point in time one of the wealthiest blacks in Pennsylvania, who was part of the Underground Railroad. Very, very creative man who did a lot of good in York County in the, I think it was late 1800s. It's a very, it's not totally red, but it's a purplish red. I would say good people, hardworking people, and folks that basically would just like to be kind of left alone to do their business and their lives and not have to worry about it. I felt very comfortable here. I'm originally from the Midwest. I lived in Virginia before I moved up here. And I think it's a beautiful area, and I would be very proud to represent it.
Would you say that the populace of your district, the census and the data shows us that this is true for everywhere in Pennsylvania, but I will ask you anyway. A growing level of diversity in your district?
Sort of. We had, when the last, what was it? The last huge storm hit Puerto Rico. We have a very large Puerto Rican group up here, and a lot of people came up here to be with family to escape the islands because things were so bad down there. And to have the president go down and throw rolls of paper towel was just really offensive, because those were people who were from down there who now were up here and watching this for their families and just were shocked to be so treated so dismissively. We do have a little bit of diversity in that there are some Afghans who have settled here, and they have been sponsored by local churches. We have had a definite increase in investment in some of the communities, such as Salem Square, which I was associated with for about 3 years, to reinvest in the community to where there are houses that are not rat traps. And we have a lot of problems with absentee owners who are just looking at this as an income and really don't care. And then their argument is, well, yeah, but the people who are renting it don't care either. But when is somebody supposed to learn how to take care of a house if they've never lived in a house in their lives?
Isn't it interesting? At the onset of the quote unquote Reagan Revolution, the onset of the austerity, neoliberalism, I would argue fascist economics. Remember, Reagan said openly during his presidential run, during the campaign, why was he running for president? And he said openly in a public press news aired on the 6 o'clock evening news interview that he was running to destroy whatever was left of the New Deal. Isn't it interesting at the beginning of this era, we're still in it, at the beginning of this era, public housing was a handout. It was a gift. It was an entitlement. It was a giveaway. You certainly can't have any investment in your own home if you don't have any ownership in it, except
Right.
that now we don't build anything. Now public housing is profitable because we can subcontract it. Foreign investors can own it. We've made it profitable. So now it's okay. Sort of okay. Unless black and brown people are in it. Then it's okay.
Well, there's still clearly evidence of redlining in York City, and you have to have enough money in the city to be able to hire people who do enforcement and who are willing to do inspections. And when you think about most cities, and I think I can say this pretty evenly and get away with it, how much of that property is taxable? You've got government buildings, you've got churches, you've got not-for-profits. They don't pay taxes. So now you've already shrunk the tax base for your schools. You've already shrunk the tax base for being able to do maintenance on your roads. And if you now have a legislature who says, nope, we're not going to use any of this stimulus money for infrastructure because we're going to hold it for the rainy day. I want to know what rainy day and what decade they're planning on releasing it.
I will tell you what I can tell you what I think. I think if Republicans take complete control of the state, of the Commonwealth, this fall, and I don't think in their hearts, by the way, that they think they are going to, but should they do that, governor, legislature, all of it, you will see that money spent, damn near all of it, in the form of corporate tax cuts.
Oh, they've already said that corporate tax cuts will make Pennsylvania more attractive. And I'm going, more attractive if you're banning a woman's choice, more attractive if your roads are falling apart.
How much further can you cut the corporate tax rate?
I think they took it down this last week. Don't have the numbers right in front of me, but they did. They cut it.
What are the...
In fact,
Go ahead. I'm
The
sorry.
Post
Go
was
ahead.
all about bragging about it was, yes, we've reduced it to make Pennsylvania more attractive. And I'm going, you're forgetting about the rest of the world and their perspective.
It's just, that's been my humble opinion for a while, that they're holding that money. I guess you could say for a rainy day, but not a rainy day of their own making. A rainy day because they put holes in the roof.
Correct.
And they'll spend that money. If they should take a clean sweep of government, then they will spend the money. But they won't give it to anyone other than perhaps high-priced developers looking to gentrify black and brown areas.
Yeah.
And for vouchers so more people can, so rich white people, because the vouchers are never enough for people of color to send their kids to religious or charter schools, but it does seem to help I guess is a relative term. It does seem to encourage maybe, I'm not even sure if that's the right term. I got myself in a circle here, don't I? Got myself dug into a trench. It does seem to encourage white folks to flee for charters. That's, and again, corporate tax cuts, and we'll just keep borrowing from those billions to fund the things that we want to fund. And don't be surprised if they didn't hand even more money to the fossil fuel industry and end whatever, I don't want to say subsidies, but whatever encouragement folks have to do anything green, heaven forbid.
Yeah.
Why do
We
you
had,
think?
okay.
No. You're the guest. Please go.
Lower Windsor Township is right on the Susquehanna River, and we have received notice in the mail that there are toxins coming off of the dump that are going into Kreitz Creek, which then goes into the Susquehanna, which then goes into the bay. And if you've been following that whole piece,
The Chesapeake Bay.
Yes, the Chesapeake Bay.
Right.
The states of Maryland and the Commonwealth of Virginia have sued Pennsylvania to force them to put money in that they promised they would put in to clean up the Susquehanna and the Bay. So we now have refused to allow the dump, which is in Lower Windsor Township, to expand to basically double the size that it was. And so they said, okay, well, clearly this is not going to work. We'll just go down to one of the old dumps that has been a brown field and sports field for about 20-some years. 800 people showed up and said, oh, hell no. And so now they're all kind of sitting there going, but where are we supposed to put all our trash? And I said, maybe people need to start thinking about how they're using things and how many plastic bags they've got and what they need to be consuming, and maybe think twice over what they're buying and how they're going to take care of it. Because
Has
it's all gotta
anyone
go somewhere.
I would hope you as a candidate would mention it. And if you haven't, I hope you do. Has anyone mentioned to the folks involved in this effort to save their own watershed? It's two states with Republican governors who have sued Pennsylvania to tell us to clean the hell up.
Well, and interestingly enough, I think it was about within the last 2 weeks, it may be 3 weeks now, the legislature did agree to fund cleanup. And I said, timing is always slightly suspect, but, we're talking right before an election and a fairly significant amount of money. And most
Well,
of the
they
people
probably
who
contracted it out to
already-
some donor. I don't know that. I'm just, because I'm with you. Yeah, the timing and the irony of it is
It's, yes, very, very suspect.
convenient, at a
But-
minimum convenient.
But the thing that every single person that spoke said was, this is about keeping my children healthy, my grandchildren healthy.
But they
You
only
take
count
care
when
of your
they're.
own trash.
But those children only count when they're in the womb.
Yeah, right.
Why
and
do you
by the way,
think?
we're still taking trash from New Jersey and New York and in other places too.
Well, it's profitable for the companies doing it.
It's also
Not for anybody
yeah,
living there, but it's profitable for the companies doing it. We did the
yeah.
same thing here. You were here at the beginning of the program when I, as has become custom here, that I'm broadcasting to you from Bethlehem Landfill Township. We did the same thing. We had a democratically controlled Lower Saucon Township Council. They were going to stop and force the landfill to close. They had maximized their capacity. They were not going to be allowed to expand. They dumped $100,000 into, I think it might have been more than that, but 100,000 seems to be ringing true to me right now. Handed it to a quote unquote political consultant in Manhattan, who then dumped it into a PAC, who then dumped the money from the PAC into the township council here in Lower Saucon and bought himself for Republican council people. And suddenly, any of the Democrats that were on the oversight board of the landfill, they were replaced, and the landfill has now been allowed to expand and just continue to grow and dump and dump and dump and dump. This is all Citizens United related. It is all dark money related. It's all about profit. You think that those Republican quote-unquote council people have any idea, let alone care, of what is even being dumped into that landfill? My guess would be no. My informed opinion would be no. They got their money. They got their council positions. They're good to go.
I would agree with that.
Why do you think that environmental issues are not more of a bridge builder between Democrats, Democratic candidates, and self-identified Republicans? Why do you think something so obvious as having tap water that you cannot set on fire or that won't kill you from the inside out is not more of a binding issue?
This is going to sound really wishful, but it is true in that the environment doesn't care what your party is. It just needs to be taken care of. And people who have had health issues, asthma is one of the huge pieces of medical problems that we have in York. Well, you start looking at what they're putting into the environment. We have people who have got all kinds of weird cancers showing up. What have they dumped in the Susquehanna? What have they dumped in the landfills? We're still finding ordinances at Harley-Davidson buried. How's that? And you just have to say, it doesn't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or if you've never voted in your life. If it's going to kill you, it will kill you. People look at me like, well, you're such a fatalist. I said, no, the environment will survive, but it may not be livable for us. And that's a big deal.
But then why do you think that more folks, red hat or not, why do you suppose more folks who habitually vote Republican, why this issue is not one that we can reach across the fence, and they can reach across the fence and can say, yeah, this is something that we agree on?
It's a bit of a mystery, but I think it also has to do with the misinformation that's been presented. I mean, like, you've got your own gubernatorial candidate saying, oh, it's fake science, it's pop science, it's not real. Well, they've been told that's what they're supposed to believe, even though they can see the bubbling at the edge of the stream that is like white and foamy and gross.
Yep.
And it smells bad. That has nothing to do with me.
Going way back to the dark ages when I was a child, and my late father used to take me hiking on the ridges, so to speak, the hills, if you will, on the Jersey side of the Delaware River, especially north of Phillipsburg. There was exploratory mines up there, all kinds of, and some trails and kind of neat stuff, and right along the river. And he would always tell me, when you see foam in the water, you know something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Something's in there that is not supposed to be there. I always find it interesting in these, especially larger and, dare I say, wealthier and whiter housing complexes, when they build a very necessary and very needed, drainage that ends up kind of being a pond. Yeah, it kind of ends up being a pond, so to speak, and it's nice. They put fountains in it to keep the water flowing and keep the mold and not mold is not the right word. The blooms down, so to speak. And then they get all up in arms when geese or ducks show up in it. And my father always told me that the geese and the ducks aren't stupid. They know where the good water is.
Right.
So that if you do have one of those catch basins, instead of the geese and the ducks being a nuisance, and let's be honest, Canadian geese can get a little ornery, and yes, folks, just a piece of nature, they poop.
A lot.
They just do. But they also wouldn't be in your catch basin if the water that was in it wasn't clean. We have a catch basin here in we have several catch basins, but only one regularly has water. I never see ducks in it. I never see geese in it. There are bullfrogs, and they are very entertaining to listen to because they talk to each other at night. It's very, very fun. But there's no geese there. And you can see that the water is kind of dark coffee. It's dark. And even though the association has put several fountains in it to try to aerate it and keep it somewhat clean, it's not great. I don't think through any lack of effort. It just is not great. And there's no geese and ducks there. But I was always told from when I was a kid that the geese and the ducks don't go to dirty water. They only go to water that they know is fit enough to be in.
That's
so
like clams.
If they can figure it out, why can't we?
Did you know that clams are natural aquifers to clean the water?
I did.
And one of the big excitements from 2 years ago in the lower Susquehanna, which is like Long Level on down, think Wrightsville, that area, they started finding clams showing up again, which meant the river was clean enough that they could be reestablished, and that would clean up the water even more.
I actually did know that.
That is one of the natural filters for the water system.
I believe mussels do the same, do they not? Or am I wrong about that?
I don't know.
I might have that. I think I might have that one wrong. I think I might have that one wrong. But so would it be self-explanatory or kind of dumb for me to ask at this point? Is of the issues that you talk about most when you're out, if not people talking to you with you, that you outwardly talk about or that you think is a top priority, is the environment generally? The Susquehanna, obviously, and the Chesapeake Bay at large, of which Pennsylvania is a supplier, but that the environment generally is something that you, Dr. Higgins, consider to be one of your top priorities.
I have 4 pieces of my platform, and that is one of them.
Well, let's reset the program. It's 7 p.m., just a hair before 7 p.m. here, Eastern Time. We are already 2 whole hours. You guys, you don't know how fast this goes sometimes, except for Dr. Higgins, who's looking at her watch going, oh, God, when is this going to end? We're 2 hours into the program, a very, very quick 2 hours. It's flying by. We are in our final hour. It is our intention to wrap up with you around 8 p.m. Dr. Higgins will stay as long as she is able. If she has to leave, she will tell me. But our plan is to take you to 8 p.m. To all of you listening on hot101.net, to our over 100,000 listeners around the globe, or at least that's the last number that April Riddick shared with me. It was over 100,000. Remember, at 9 p.m. p.m. Eastern time here in the United States. I do not know what time that means to you around the world, but to 9 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States, 8 Central, 6 Pacific. 5 hours later from 9 would be 2 in the morning in the UK and most of Western Europe. Is Thomas. Sergeant Mac is on Hot 101 from 9 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States. I hope you will tune in to him. I have to admit I am a little partial to Sergeant Mac because his first appearances were here on our program, and his program was born, I guess you'd say born, or facilitated, I guess, at a minimum, from our program. He is my friend. He is my brother. I'm so proud of him. I'm so blessed to call him friend. And he is up on Hot 101 and on our Facebook page, That Other Side of Information, from 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Wherever you are across Facebook, over 100 shares. That Other Side of Information is our home group page. Please come on over and listen to the program, watch the program. If you have missed any of the program, beyond the obvious, which is what is wrong with you? You know we start at 5 o'clock, but if you missed any of the program, please go to our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information, as well. That Other Side of Information on Facebook and YouTube. You can go to YouTube and watch all of our recorded programs after we wrap up today. At some point tonight, tomorrow, Tuesday, probably Wednesday, at the absolute drop dead latest, George will convert it and it will be up on YouTube and you can find it there. Hot101.net. Our name is our web address, Apple App Store, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio app, and tell Alexa to play Hot101.net. And TCP, look out for the morning show and look for us on their Roku. I was going to say Roku. That's wrong. Roku channel. I'm having speech problems today. Isn't it awesome when the radio guy is having speech problems? Just because I have this mic in front of me and these headset on doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. I still sometimes get tongue-tied, and that just sort of happens. Never great when the radio guy can't talk. Dr. Judith Higgins is our guest, still here, kind enough to share a Sunday evening with us. She is the Democratic nominee and candidate for the 28th Pennsylvania State Senatorial District, right here in our humble Commonwealth. To all candidates across the country who are listening to us live, campaign staff might be watching on the recording. If you are a state or federal level candidate, this program is open to you from tonight all the way through election day. Come and talk to us. You are welcome here. Whether we do the interview one-on-one like we are with Dr. Higgins, or there is a group of you, we have made overtures to candidates in New York, New Jersey, Florida, Wisconsin, Missouri, Nevada, Arizona, and Oregon. I think I got everybody. And we already have commitments from candidates in Oregon. So wherever you are in this country and territories, and you want to come talk to us from any side of the aisle, you are welcome here. As I stated at the top of the program, if you are a Republican candidate, I can pretty much guarantee you there ain't a hell of a lot we are going to agree upon, but we will have a respectful discussion. And this airwave is open to all of you. So come and chat with us, either one-on-one or in groups, whatever you're more comfortable with, shorter, more long form, whatever you wish. You are welcome here. And we are honored to have Dr. Higgins here taking advantage of exactly that and sharing with us exactly who she is, why she's running, and what we're hoping to accomplish. So let us continue. You said you had 4 big planks to your platform. We discussed all probably, we could do an entire show just on environment, I'm sure. But what would be, I'd like to cover the other 3 planks, so I'd like to just leave it to you to which one would you like to get to next?
The foundation is education, because when you have an educated population, they're more engaged with what's going on. By educated, I don't mean, a bunch of college graduates. I mean people who have an understanding what's going on, that can participate in the dialogue of our country. I often hearken back to Bernardo O'Higgins, who, rumor has it, was a relative, went down to Brazil, and he started teaching literacy. Now, for those who have never heard of Bernardo Higgins, Brazil, by the time he was finished, had the highest literacy rate in South America of 98%. Because when people can read, they can read what the government is saying. When they can read what the government is saying, they can have that conversation of, is this actually going to be beneficial for us? And that's when the people realized they were being taken advantage of. They were being put into situations that were not good for them. So if you talk to the people who look at the government as being all good, Bernardo O'Higgins was a radical and they threw him out of the country. If you look at it from the side of people were stronger and more able to be whole, if you will, he was a hero. So
do you still consider education to be the great equalizer?
Yes and no. When we started talking about education as part of the platform, one of the pieces that kept coming through over and over again, as I said, I'd worked with Salem Square, which is, it's not was, it still is, one of the poorest sections of York City. We tried to do a exploration of a welding program. And even with all the help that I could muster up, including sponsoring people to take the classes, they couldn't leave the job they were in because there was no way to take the time to take the classes and still support their families. So if you have a way of providing the first 2 years of an associate's degree, a technical training, an internship, an apprenticeship, those kinds of opportunities to basically anybody who is making less than $80,000 as a family. And $80,000 is not that much anymore. It's really scary. But, they start talking about, well, you've got this and you've got this. Start taking out college tuition. Start taking out training programs. And suddenly you don't have the ability to do this. If we can figure out a way to get nurses, to get doctors, to get plumbers, to get all of these kinds of programs started, the infrastructure that we need, the services that we need, the technical support that we need, the trades that we need, without punishing the people who are like, I would love to do it, but I can't leave my family high and dry. Education is critical. We are not a self-taught society anymore. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, Abraham Lincoln became a lawyer because he read books and declared himself a lawyer and opened a practice and said attorney at law. He was self-taught, but it's that society doesn't exist anymore. I refer to education as the great equalizer because it is, to me, still, and it's why Republicans want to destroy it and turn it into something that if you can't afford it, you don't get it. These big corporations, they need a supply of drones. They need a supply of low-skilled, low-educated workers that can be employed cheaply. And education is there are still stories in this country of, the first generation to go to college and to graduate college. And I agree with you that not every student must go to college. I deeply believe. In fact, I think they've been shortchanged. I actually think this is kind of somewhere where the unions have let us down a tiny bit, although they've been shrunk, so that's part of the reason. But where unions need to be re-involved in this is internships and apprenticeships. In Germany, you have a choice when you leave what we would consider to be high school to, if your grades are high enough, your college is paid for all the way through your doctorate level. In fact, they pay you to go to school. If your grades are not high enough, or if you choose not to pursue that type of education, the Nordic countries do this as well as the lowland countries. Most of Western Europe basically does this. They pay you to become internships in unions, be they mechanical, carpenter, masonry, whatever those might be. They pay you to do these things. I call education the great equalizer because it is to me, and the reason why I ask you about it is because it is, to me, it is still the arguably the least, even for all the money that we do put into it, which is still not enough, it is still the least expensive way to raise up the next generation from poverty. It would seem to me, if you are a genuine fiscal conservative, that educational investments, when we know that they return multiple dollars back through the economy, would make sense. The GI Bill alone returned between $7 and $14 back into the economy for every dollar that was spent in it. So let me, with all of that being laid out on the table, let me ask you again, do you believe that education is the great equalizer, and is that why certain segments do not want to fund it, because they don't want to raise that generation up?
I think it's a whole lot more than that. It is, again, part of that redlining that has occurred. You have underfunding of public education based on the tax base and the zip code that you live in, and that is totally unacceptable. That is why there is currently a lawsuit coming before the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that basically has sued for fair and equitable funding for education. And that was actually fought for by Bev McAreff, who is representative out of Spring Grove. Oh, by the way, a Republican, who Spring Grove sat her down and said, "You don't understand. We don't have enough money being provided by the state." And she went through the whole thing. She goes, "That's not possible, because that's the bill of sale they were putting out." It was proved that it did not work. And the fair funding formula was created, and you will see that Governor Wolf referred to that about 3 weeks ago as the new money was going to be the fair funding formula. Well, the legislature kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off and not implementing it. So these different counties and these different groups sued for equitable funding, and the legislature was basically put in a position of, you better do something or the courts will be the ones to address it. We have too many families that are losing their homes because of education, so they're now looking down on funding education because it's costing them personally. So is it a great equalizer? Yes, but there are so many side problems that have been created by the fact that the legislature has kicked this down the road for 40 years and done nothing about it to help families or to help farm owners. So yeah, we got to do it, but there's got to be a better way to pay for it, and I think there are.
Many moons ago, many moons ago, I was a school board member in my hometown, and believe me, I have never been on the I've never been on the I've never been on the majority end of this, let's put it that way.
I agree.
It would seem to me that one of the ways, because I actually proposed this in New Jersey as a legislative representative from my local and county board of education to our state. If you really wanted to equalize education, then it was time to get rid of districts. Because the districts can't be equal when their property values and income levels are not the same.
Right.
And that New Jersey needed to treat itself as one district called New Jersey. Number of students, total pot of money, divided by, get your per head,
Yep.
and there you go. I understand that, again, I think this speaks to the monumental hypocrisy and sort of, barking at the heels from every point of view that Republicans do around education, that, well, yes, we need, we have this fair funding formula, except we don't quite put everything in it because the wealthier white suburb districts, we want them to keep their money. And actually, I think they do it as a way to try to placate rural districts, even though they're broke too. But at least those folks know that Philadelphia isn't getting their money. And so we have the supposed fair funding formula. Oh, but on the other hand, so all you districts, you have plenty of money because we have this fair funding formula. But on the other hand, which is completely antithetical to that, we really need to eliminate the property tax as a way to fund schools, which I happen to agree with, by the way, because you don't have enough money. And this is really the way to give you money. But except, of course, we're going to extract all that money from you just in different ways. Because, again, don't worry, rich people are not going to get hit by this. It's you that are going to pay for it. And again, we really don't want you to have great education systems because, again, how do we get the drone dumb workers that we need if we educate people? Why did we stop teaching civics? Because then you know how your government works. And it's a lot easier to complain about it when you know how it works. How do you reach people through this, seagrass of this, this corn maze of talking points and facts and data when you're discussing education? Because again, it seems to me that education should be a very simple and straightforward issue where we can be building bridges with segments of the population who don't normally vote in our direction. Doctor?
When I'm listening, I'm thinking. Yes, I do think.
I think occasionally too. Occasionally. Sometimes I don't think enough.
When you talk about being a great equalizer, education can be that, but to what end? If you still don't have economic opportunity in your area, if you still have redlining, if you still have more hoops and bars to climb because you're black or brown, then it's still a problem. It doesn't matter. I mean, like, we've got young people at York High School who have blown the water away trying to make the best test scores. They're studying hard, and what do they gain from it if you still have no opportunity? Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, I do. You know what? I do get that part of it, and I don't want to. Perhaps I've discounted that, but not purposefully. I look at it, at the risk of being repetitive, I look at it as, if we don't, one way we can make sure that we don't rise people up is to not educate them. I guess that's kind of, when I say equalize, that's where I'm coming from. How many poor kids in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Clarion County and Snyder County and York County will get a quality education and become something that preceding generations were not? And I do think that there's a genuine effort to make sure that that doesn't happen.
I think you have to take a step back and look at the bigger sociological picture. And that if you have a family unit that is still intact, that is supporting their child and able to put food on the table every night and to keep a house, to have a roof over their heads, and the security of not being shot through the door because there's violence in the street,
Right.
you're going to have a different experience than somebody who is worried about being homeless tomorrow, who doesn't have any food, who doesn't have clean clothes. It's a bigger picture, and until we start looking at what is the child experiencing in their life, why are these things happening? I mean, I know some great parents who would love to be able to only have to do one job, who would love to be able to be more involved with their kids. They are so stressed because they can't. They don't have enough money. They don't have the access to the support services. Their rent just got raised. I mean, I had somebody looking at me yesterday going, they just raised my rent $310 in Red Lion. You know, where am I supposed to come up with $310 more a month on top of groceries, on top of gasoline, so that I can hold a job, so that I can pay the $310 more? It's not as simple as just making sure the kid gets an education. I wish it were. And that's why this whole approach of, if you have an educated population, you're then going to have better opportunities for employment within the area. I will tell you, in York County, I have been impressed with what the unions are doing. Kinsley Construction has actually started an entire Kinsley University, basically, to create trades, so that there are people who are coming through their program so that they can create a workforce. We have the IBEW, who is doing all kinds of electrical work, including solar, to make sure that the next generation of electricians are able to meet the needs of the infrastructure and the homeowner. So there's a lot that's happening, but it's got to be big enough to help more people. I agree with you on that.
Let me try to dovetail that into a quick, if we can, well, quick, it's not a simple issue, obviously. It may not be in your top four, and I want to get to the other two that are in your top four, but when we talk about trades, these are good, honest ways to support a family and make a decent living. I believe, again, that the trades have been, I know that this begins to sound, that we're skirting around the idea of like tin hat kind of things, but I really don't think that they are. I think these were well thought out, decade-long planned, fundamental changes to our society that were implemented for the sake of a very, very small few, an extremely small few. And what Senator Sanders, Senator Warren, Senator Merkley, Senator Brown, and on et al. Would refer to as the billionaire class and the largest corporations. Tradespeople were heavily unionized. They made good money. And not all tradespeople got fabulously wealthy, but they took care of themselves. They could save. They could take vacations. They could buy cars. And they could buy homes. Right. This is an issue that I think nationally is profoundly under-considered, thought about. And inside Pennsylvania, as we see the gentrification that is happening in Philadelphia, that has happened and happening in Pittsburgh, and here in my Lehigh Valley, we see these gorgeous, and I'm not kidding, beautiful, brand new buildings being built in Easton, Bethlehem, Allentown especially, but not only those towns, but especially those, that are all for rent. What happened to the idea of home ownership. Now, if you're a younger person
Money.
and you choose to rent, then God bless you. That choice is what the country's built on. Your personal choices. As long as they don't break the law or hurt anybody else, your personal choices. But we build these massive buildings. They're all rental. They're owned by big corporations and big developers, a rising percentage of which are not based in this country.
Right.
And the rents are set at just such a level, you really can't save anything. Home ownership, for every dollar that a homeowner spends on their home, $7 more ripples through the economy. You buy appliances. You maybe paint the outside. Maybe you hire a landscaper. Maybe you buy a new lawnmower. You need carpenters. You need electricians. Maybe you hire I said painters, I think, didn't I? I was thinking about the outside of the house, then I was thinking about the inside, and I thought about painters twice. But maybe you buy a shed. Maybe you buy deck furniture, new furniture for the living room. That money ripples through the economy. We've removed that, Doctor, I think. From an entire segment of our population, we've removed not just the dream of home ownership, but perhaps even the thought of home ownership. Do you see that? Even if that's not in your top 4, so to speak, when you mention the trades and we mention the dignity, the genuine dignity of becoming a tradesperson instead of, a college degree in medieval European hay baling. What are your
Pretty
thoughts?
creative.
Well, it seems to me that, we go, look, I see it in my own job search. I'm in the warehousing field, and I see it in my own job search that people will look at me and go, you don't have a college degree. True, I don't. But I've been working in warehouses for 40 years.
Right.
Well, this other candidate has a degree in English. Well, God bless them, but you're hiring a warehouse manager, not an English teacher. Yes, but they have a college degree. Okay. I have a degree in broadcasting. What's that mean to you? Well, that's not related to warehousing. Well, neither is English. We've turned the college degree into something that's necessary, but we've also decimated the trades in doing it. And I think it's fed into this housing crisis, even if it's in an indirect way. May I please ask your thoughts on housing generally and how we've kind of moved the goalpost, so to speak, and almost, I want to say trained. Trained's a really bad word to use. But we really have changed the mindset for maybe even multiple generations now that homeownership really isn't that big of a deal. It's not that important anymore, when really it's the basis of the economy.
It is the basis for generational wealth. If you have a house, you can leave it to a child, which means that child doesn't have to worry about being homeless. And then when that child has children, they can pass it on to their child or their children. It is the beginning of generational wealth. And that is one of the things that is clearly evident, I think, in a lot of cities in Pennsylvania. With, again, I keep referring to redlining, and the effect that it has on generations is huge. We have, I think, in 1999, I was the director of school to work here in York County, which was a program under President Clinton to try to say there are multiple paths to success within the world of work, whether it's going to college, going directly to work, going into the military, going into the trades, whatever is going to be what's best fit for you. To get parents to accept that we were moving past the idea that the bachelor's degree was the only option was very difficult, because that's what they had been fed when they were in high school and when they were going into the world of work. So we now have a situation where, you know, I came out of my master's degree $20,000 in debt. That was a number of years ago, and that was a lot of money. Nowadays, it's $100,000.
Right.
How are people supposed to ever find their footing with a, you know, $500 payment per month for their school loans, an interest rate that's outrageous, and the ability to be a renter the rest of your life or live in your parents' basement? I don't.
If you came out of higher education now with only $20,000, you would be considered lucky. That's how far we've moved the goalposts. That's how far we have reoriented people's thinking, and I think it's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. 7:30 Eastern Time here on the East Coast. Entering our what I plan to be the final half hour of the program. Remember, Sergeant Mac comes up for you on Hot 101 and on Facebook at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, whatever time zone that means to you. Dr. Judith Higgins is our guest. PA Senate Democratic nominee, 28th District. Hot101.net, TCP, and all over Facebook. Thank you for being here. If you miss any of the program, remember to check us later. George will let me know when he has it converted, but it could be as early as a few hours after we finish, probably before Wednesday. And George, we miss you. Come back soon. There were two other topics in your top four, Doctor. I want to make sure that you get to them, whichever one you'd like to choose first, and we'll wrap up the time with you. We'll get through your next two platform points. I will try to shut up a little more, and then we'll get let everybody get your information, and we'll leave you to your Sunday. So there's two more in your big four. We talked environment, education, took a slight detour into housing. What are your remaining big top four issues for you?
Probably the one that would come next would be infrastructure. We have a lot of work that we need to do in Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth is old. I mean, let's just be honest. I know of areas of York County where you are living in a community that's an older neighborhood, the pipes are cracking and they're collapsing. So now you have a hole in the road. So now you have people who don't have sewer or water because these are 50-year-old pipes and nobody's ever done maintenance on them. So we've got
and many of them are still lead.
We have had more what appears to be not lead, but something else. I could be wrong, but that's what I've been told by the people who live in the community.
Okay.
So I don't know. But all I know is they're collapsing.
Right.
So we need to put in place a maintenance system so that all the cities can have safe drinking water, that people are not going to be sitting there going, I have no access to water, and oh, by the way, the water's polluted. We've got bridges. That was a little too ironic when the bridge collapsed in Pittsburgh when Biden was going out there to visit it, and we've got, I think, 13 in York County alone that are on the list.
So when you are campaigning, and I assume some of the folks that you talk to, even if you don't discuss it in the midst of your conversation, I assume some of them are Republican voters. Okay. And they happen to discuss infrastructure with you. Do they know about the infrastructure bill? Do they know who passed it? And do they know who the only group of people are who are trying to do anything about it is our party?
I try to focus on being a positive presentation that it was passed and it was part of the Democrat platform to be able to ensure that people would have safe roads, safe water, and access to non-polluted environments. At which point, sometimes I get an ugly look, but not always. People will usually listen because we all drive on the roads. It's not a Democrat road or a Republican road. It's a road.
Do they know how do they know, do most folks know, because there's a growing populace, I believe, that does know and understand. Do folks that you talk to, again, I think it's a growing number, do folks that you talk to understand the depth to which the fossil fuel industry, the fracking industry specifically, is destroying and degrading the infrastructure of the Commonwealth while contributing absolutely nothing back to it?
No. All they know is they're paying over $4 for gas.
Right. We don't make gasoline in the Commonwealth, by the way. We don't frack it. We don't drill for it. It has to be refined. The natural gas that's coming out of the Marcellus is not what you burn in your car. All of it's going into pipelines, going to Philadelphia, being put on ships and sent overseas. So whatever fracking and or pipelines that are either being constructed or have been shut down or have been denied by the federal government or fought by New Jersey, thank God, have nothing to do with the price you're paying for gasoline, folks. None. Zero, none. If gas prices could not be controlled by the president when Trump was, then neither can Mr. Biden. That is simple common sense. It may not fit into your daily narrative. It might not make you feel good at night, but it is the truth. Truth sucks sometimes.
And that's exactly it. So that is always kind of an interesting conversation. I had one guy who ended up absolutely screaming at me that we shut down the pipeline, and all of a sudden all the prices went up, and it's all President Biden's fault. And we tried to kind of talk around it, and he was clearly one of those very red hat guys.
Mm-hmm.
And just sort of said, let's agree to disagree. Well, I can tell you it's the truth. And I was like, well, I can disagree with you.
I had a conversation just a couple of days ago on the Facebook page. Folks, if you go to our home group Facebook page, you will see it. I posted an article. No, was it an article? Had to do with the Inflation Reduction Act, about how no one making under $400,000 was going to pay anything additional in taxes because of this legislation. I had a very cute troll from under the bridge post a very, very crudely made and also wholly inaccurate meme, because God knows that's the only way we communicate these days, about how the taxes were going to go up on that same group. And he cited the Joint Committee on Taxation, which is a joint House and Senate committee in the United States Congress. I then went to the House committee website, found the actual report that said, no, only really rich people and big corporations are going to pay more money, posted it in the comments section right back to this gentleman, who then laughed and said, look at him trying to tell me facts. This is why I say that maybe those folks need to wander the Sinai for 40 years, because they're lost and they can't be reached. Not because we can't reach them, and not because the facts that we talk about are not facty enough for them, but because they don't want to be reached. This gentleman does not want to be reached. He gets a joy out of trying to tell me that facts aren't facts. The earth is round. Gravity exists. The sky is blue. Grass is green. Water is wet. It does not matter what Mr. Trump tells you any differently. The facts just are what they are. When I go straight to the committee itself, and the actual report, and you know what I have told you folks before about legislation, it looks like Shakespeare to me. Kristen is God gifted at being able to read and decipher it. It makes no sense to me. It reads like ancient, it reads like Sumerian Sanskrit. I can't decipher what the hell legislation says most of the time because it's written in such a way. But this was very simple. There were charts. Call me simple, that's cool, I'll take it. That showed that the gentleman was lying. A word we don't use enough for Republicans, by the way. Lying. And then he got upset. Well, who's the snowflake then?
Right.
What is your fourth big four, Doctor?
Protecting the rights of women.
Doctor, why do you think Republicans don't see this as just an abortion well, wait, let me rephrase that. Why do you think they see this as only an abortion issue instead of a personal freedom issue from the party of personal freedom?
Because it doesn't fit their narrative. It's so much more inflammatory to be able to use the word abortion, when it is so much more than abortion. It is a woman's right to choose her health care, what her family's going to be on her timeline, not some stupid politician.
Do you see it as more than an abortion issue? Do you see the issue
absolutely.
itself as being well beyond just
Absolutely.
this
Self-control.
procedure?
Absolutely.
What's the purpose then? I mean, we talked about it earlier in the program. I think it's to try to cabal these multiple small groups of very disparate interested people to try to create some type of Republican base. I happen to feel that because of the reversal of Roe, you're going to have a pretty sizable number of those folks just say congratulations, pat each other on the back, and go home. I think that one issue voter just might very well be done, or at least a measurable part of them. But why? I mean, do you really think that it's just? When I say just, it makes it sound minimalist, and I don't mean it that way. But is that really all you think that this whole issue comes down to, is trying to somehow subjugate, to send Mrs. Cleaver back into the kitchen?
It's a piece of it, but it's also much like Mitch McConnell focused on packing the courts and worked for 20 years to do it and did it.
I'd say longer, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I was.
Yeah, I'd say a lot longer, but yeah.
I think it's part of that same piece. We planned on doing this, and now we're doing it.
Do you think?
Figuring that this is going to be the whiplash.
Do you think that there is an element of the dog catching the car to this issue?
Absolutely. This is going to be one of those where they're going to look at each other and go, "Ruh-roh, this didn't go the way we thought it was going to go."
When you are having conversations with self-identified Republicans, because I don't think there's any real ones left. Most Republicans can't tell you why they continue to vote that way. I honestly can't, because I've had those discussions. But when you are speaking with self-identified Republicans, and you're going to throughout your campaign, and you should, do they see anything past the procedure? Do they see the personal freedom part of this argument?
Yes, they do. And that is where most of the women who have come up to me, who are Republicans, have said, this is absolutely unacceptable. No man, no legislator, no one is going to tell me what I can do and what I can't do and what my health care is going to be because they think they can. That's not happening. And most of the guys are just kind of sitting back going, okay.
Because I got to tell you, Doc, not that this issue, certainly, God knows, is not about me. It isn't. I have a hell of an ego, or I wouldn't be on the radio. But this is not about me. But it seems to me that as Democratic Party members, as committee people, I happen to be a state committee person, as candidates, that we can look our own fellow Democrats in the face, as well as anybody else who's willing to listen. And this happens to be my personal view, and it's one that I share. It's not one that everyone agrees with, and God bless them, they don't have to. The idea of an abortion itself and the idea that any woman should be forced into such a decision, or find themselves, let me correct myself, find themselves in a position where they have to make that decision, it kind of makes me a little squeamish. The idea of abortion itself makes me a little ugh. But at the same time, it's none of my business. And
Amen.
it seems to me that any self-identified Republican who considers themselves, quote unquote, small government, if the government can't take my guns, why the hell can it tell my daughter she has to have a baby? Does that message resonate? Why can't we use that message?
I have no idea. I haven't figured that one out yet. It's
Does it make
ridiculous
sense to you,
because-
or do you think I'm way off?
Oh, no, I think you're right because Mike Jones, Representative Mike Jones, is over here in Dallastown. And he was one of the people locally that started the open PA, free PA,
I have invited Free PA onto this program, by the way. Miss Tabitha Value, and I think I might be mispronouncing her last name, and I apologize if I am, because I'm not trying to be rude in any way. It's French, and I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. She has an open invitation onto this program, as does any of the leadership from Free PA. Shocker, I hope you're sitting down, Doctor. They have yet to show up.
No way.
Shocker, right?
Right.
But I will reiterate again, wide open on the air. Any of you can join me anytime. Sorry?
We have people who just don't think. They get stuck on the word abortion and they're going, no, you're killing a baby. And I'm going, okay, why can you do whatever you want to do as a male with your body and your health, and nobody says squat one? Women don't get pregnant by themselves.
And I know that became kind of almost a joke-ish, kind of a snap comeback sort of response that, the guy that got her pregnant, if the law said that he would automatically have to have a vasectomy, first off, there'd be vasectomy clinics on every street corner right next to every Starbucks. And you're damn right abortion would be legal. But why is that? It kind of has become a bit of a cliche argument, but why is it a bad argument? Or is it a bad argument?
You can't argue with it because you sort of go, oh, right.
There's
Why
only
is it only the woman is punished? Why is it the doctor is punished?
for a gentleman like Mr. Mastriano, who is so drowned in the Bible, he himself should know there's only been one immaculate conception.
Yep.
Doctor, we have 10 minutes left in the program. You have been beyond kind with your time. One of the, I think, nice things about our program is that for candidates here in North America, Sunday evening is usually not the kind of time that you're out knocking doors or making phone calls, so we get a bit lucky that way, but it's still an awful lot of time for the doctor to be generous enough to give us. So with the last minutes of, or at least planned, I'm going to end up rambling and going close to 8 because I always do, but it's for the last minutes that we're going to keep the doctor. Doctor, first off, I have bad news for you. You're part of the family now.
Okay.
So it is my sincere hope, my humble hope, that this will not be the only time that we ever hear from you. Your invitation to this program remains open. If there is something of importance that you feel that our audience needs to know about, I hope you will contact me and come and visit us again. The door is open to you whenever we are here.
Thank you so much.
I would like to turn the floor over to you, step back and just say, if there are any topics that we did not get to talk about, if there are any topics that you don't think we got to close out, so to speak, your contact information, donor information, maybe where you're expecting to be in the next few weeks, how people can contact you or contact the campaign, any of that stuff, the floor is open. Cover anything that you wish.
I am a real basic person, so most of my contact information is judithhiggins.com. We'll keep it as simple as possible. It's Twitter, it is Facebook, it is basically my campaign manager takes care of all that stuff because I don't have time to do websites, but he does. I do accept through Act Blue, and as I have told several donors, we do not have a lot of money, but $28 is $28 that we don't have to come up with somewhere else. And running at the same time as Josh Shapiro and Fetterman makes it a little challenging to be able to get a little bit of money, and we appreciate any support you can give. I'm actually going to start making some of my jewelry and putting it out as swag, so people can check that and feel like they've donated to the campaign and gotten some good out of it as well. I am very, very excited about the fact that we have 4 rallies that will be planned out starting in September. And you're certainly welcome to see where those are. They're all going to be in South Central Pennsylvania, of course. But you can follow us on Facebook, see what's going on, what some of our issues are, what we've had to face. And it's pretty exciting. I think we've got a good chance to flip this seat. Because we also found out that in November of 2019, well, right after the election, 2020, Kristen Phillips Hill and Mastriano were both in Washington, D.C. together, and she has been campaigning with him. So you can kind of see that where
So she was she part of the insurrection then?
No, she was not there in January.
Okay.
That we know of. She was
Gotcha.
not there. That is not her modus operandi. She is, heels, red dress, perfect lipstick, and whatever.
Gotcha. Living the dream.
Right. If you want a workforce, vote for me. You want a show pony, go for her.
Do you have any debates scheduled with her?
Not one, because they don't respond. I'm going to ask the York Daily Record if they're going to do anything, because we just found out today that the gentleman who is running against Lloyd Smucker is going to be having 2 debates, one in Lancaster and one in York. They have been arranged through the Chamber of Commerce and the local newspapers. So it would be nice if we could even just get one.
A little free campaign advice for whatever it's worth. You did not ask me. This is unsolicited, and you're welcome to ignore me. I do think Democratic candidates, and folks, by the way, it's not the Democrat Party. It's been the Democratic Party since Jefferson named it over 200 years ago. Democrat came from Joe McCarthy. Taught people that people like the word democratic. They like democratic institutions. They like democracy. So anything we can do to make the word Democratic or Democrat look bad. So say Democrat Party and emphasize the rat. It's been a tactic for 80-something years now. That said, we are the Democratic Party. Don't let anybody tell you different. It's history. It's fact. It's not an opinion. It's just fact. Facts are pretty damn powerful when you pay attention to them. That said, free advice you did not ask me for, Doctor. You feel free to ignore me if you wish. I do not believe enough Democratic candidates make enough hay. We don't raise enough attention. We don't make a campaign issue out of the complete lack of constituent services and contact that these Republican incumbents and or candidates have with their constituents. If I'm in your position, if I'm in any Democratic candidate's position, especially against an incumbent Republican, I'm challenging them to as many debates as they're willing to have. I'll have 3 a week. You name the place. I don't care if we have 1 a day until election day. You name all the times and places. You can schedule them. I'll show up. And then when they don't, go stand on a stage with an empty lectern.
An empty chair is much more effective as cleanup.
And ask the people sitting in front of you why that person wasn't good enough. Why they didn't think. Ask that audience why they might believe, why they, as an audience, don't deserve their elected official to show up for them. Or ask them why the elected official doesn't think they, the audience, is worthy of their time.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't do nearly enough of it. It's a little bit of stage, it's a little bit of theater. I get it. Some people don't like to get into that part, but God knows if the roles were reversed. Because this is what the Republican Party has become. It's a party of grievance. It's a party of fear. It's a party of staging and theatrics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can do theatrics too, and we can do it in a way that proves a point. Here's the empty chair. Where is your representative? Why do they feel you're not worth showing up here tonight and explaining themselves?
Last week when they had the meeting on expanding the dump, reopening the dump down on Plank Road in Stewartstown, they had reached out to Krista and asked her if she would show up to support those positions. Her response was she was busy.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's one of the best jobs.
And talked to to the EPA or DCNR earlier that day. That doesn't help them.
She's also part of the party that's trying to literally take the enforcement powers away from DEP.
Yep.
To make the one government agency with the power, well, one of two really, the state and feds, to regulate what's, and folks, regulations are just protections. They're just protections.
Mm-hmm.
We regulate food. Yeah, so it doesn't kill you.
And drugs.
Like literally.
Mm-hmm.
So we regulate what gets dumped into your environment so it doesn't kill you. And for the folks in the 28th and throughout Pennsylvania and throughout the country, the former political party known as Republicans don't care. Because clean environments and the corporations that would have to be responsible for cleaning up after themselves, it's not profitable. And you're talking about an entire political label, a corporation driven solely by profit for the people that own them. Not donate, own. Own them. That's it. It's not more complicated than that. They're expensive. It's called internalizing. The fracking industry in Pennsylvania takes all the profit. They're literally sucking the wealth right out from under your feet and shipping it overseas. And all of the radioactive waste fracking water, the collapsed bedrock shelves leading to sinkholes and everything else, the unfarmable land where pipelines have poisoned it, you clean that up, you peasants. We just made billions and billions and billions by shipping the gas overseas.
Add to that the reason there are now earthquakes in Kansas and
Oklahoma
is because they
from
have
fracking.
shifted the entire infrastructure from fracking so that the ground is literally collapsing because
Yes, it
there's
is.
holes in it.
There are no.
I'm originally from Kansas, and I can tell you there was never an earthquake there.
Please, doctor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I have this right because I'm working from memory. There are no fault lines in Oklahoma or Kansas, yet they are suffering hundreds of tremors a day.
In some areas,
they're not 8.0, 10.0. They're not, Roland Emmerich major movie type things. Some of them are literally 1.5s and sometimes lower than a 1. But when you're coming from, they generally hover between 2.5 and 3.7 if memory serves. But that said, in an area with no fault lines, even a 0.5 is kind of a big deal. And they never... You kind of created a fault line.
Basically,
It's like a man-made
Kansas
fault line.
and Oklahoma were actually the bottom of an ocean. To give you an idea of what it was back in the prehistoric days, it was an ocean. There are no fault lines in oceans. Not like that.
Not for hundreds a day. For sure. It's like a man-made fault.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor, I know you need to get out of here. So thank you. Just thank you. I don't have any fancy words. I mean, just thank you for being so kind. For getting back to me and us here at the program, for being willing to come and talk with us, share your thoughts, share your platform. You know, we will be rooting for you. We wish you the absolute best of luck. I beg you to please stay safe out in the... You're a military gal, you're way tougher than me, but please stay safe out there on the trail anyway, because goodness knows. I mean, we had a guy walk into an FBI office and try and kill all the officers, so, you know...
It is disconcerting.
Yeah, at a minimum. I'd say that's a gentle word for it. Yeah, it is disconcerting, but it's... Please stay safe out there. We know you can handle yourself, but please stay safe out there. Not just from that side, but just, you know, COVID's still out there and things like that. So we're just eternally grateful that you came, thought enough of us in the audience to come and share your time with us tonight. We're very, very grateful. We beg you the best. Your opponent is welcome here too. I know we won't agree on a lot of policies, but she is welcome here. Everyone is welcome here. So thank you for being here, and you know, we wish you the best. And again, please, I mean what I say. You're part of the family, and if you have something that you want to share with the audience and that you want to revisit the program, you know, the door is open to you.
Thanks so much. Don't forget to visit judithhiggins.com. You can check out my positions if you want to post comments, if you want to volunteer to be part of our door knocking campaign if you live in the area, or if you'd just like to come and see us at our rallies. We would love to have you come down. If you've got any extra cash, I'll be happy to take it.
$28.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so
Please
much.
have a great rest of your evening. Go get some dinner. We're very grateful for you being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, and have a good evening, everyone.
That's Dr. Judith Higgins, the PA Senate candidate for the 28th District here in our Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I was reminded in the comments that I failed to open the phone line, and Randall is 100% correct. I failed to do that. But we let
Do
the
I
doctor...
need to hang around for a minute?
No, go ahead. Please go get some dinner, because I intend to wrap up here too. It's been 3 hours and I haven't eaten either. I will let Randall call me I'm going to let Randall call me if he wants to call, because he always does, and he's the best. He's just the best. And there's nobody saying that you can't make lasting, substantial friendships in this electronic sea, so to speak. And Randall is one. He's our resident hippie, who's been and I know I can say that because I know he's not going to be bothered by it. From Delaware County, who's been a Democratic committee person for, gosh, I think like 40 years. I mean, he's really dedicated to the party. There he is. He knew he was going to call. He's the best.
Well, I'm going to jump off. Thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you, Doctor. Randall, welcome, sir.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, brother. How are you?
I'm hanging in.
How you feeling? You're right. Oh, what happened? Oh, crap. What happened? Oh, tell me I broke the phones. Huh. I probably did. Darn it. Oh, I probably did something wrong. I think I did that right. Wait. Come on. There it is. I think I may have done that to you, Randall. I'm very sorry. I think I hit something.
Yeah, I
My fault. I think. Let me take the hit on that. I think I did something wrong. I apologize.
It's okay. I called back. I was hoping that Dr. Higgins would still be on, because I want to thank her for, number one, running, and number two, all the incredible things that she has worked on in her different careers. It's still fighting. I'm glad she's fighting for the environment. I'm still down here in Delaware County when the Mariner East lines are going through,
Yeah.
pumping nothing but highly volatile liquid gases
Mm-hmm.
to be shipped by down
Tanker.
the Marcus.
Yeah, right. It goes the Marcus Hook on a tanker, and then wherever
And
it goes.
Tanker pressurized, and that goes down the Delaware Bay,
Mhm.
out to the ocean. It goes to Scotland to unload. It goes to Norway to unload to make plastic for profit. Pure and
It
simple.
also goes. Some of it also. My understanding is, you're welcome to correct me. Is that a good bit of it too? Obviously, not all of it. You just made that clear, but is still going to China, I think, for domestic use.
Yeah, I think it'll go around the Horn of Africa. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to and up to for China to make plastic.
Yeah.
As if we need any more plastic.
Let me throw this out there. This is not related to what you're saying. I will let you finish. You know I always let you finish. There's a lot has been made by the right in this country, and even the right wing in Europe, an ever-increasing right wing, sadly, and frighteningly, about how Western Europe is going to have to quite potentially ration and rethink its use of natural gas given the Ukrainian war, and that Western Europe has made a decision to stop using Russian gas because they don't want that money going back to Russia to be used to buy more and more and more weapons. They most recently bought hundreds of drones from Iran to use against the Ukrainians. Let's remember what most of the gas in Western Europe is used for. They use it for cooking, but even more so for industry. The use of gas in Western Europe for home heating, for huge power plants, is not what it is in this country. Germany creates so much solar power from government, business, and residential usage that they had to encourage folks to buy electric cars to store all of it, to use the cars as a secondary storage method, and sold the extra energy to the Scandinavian countries. So yes, Germany still uses gas, natural gas. Absolutely, yes they do. And simple logistics made it most convenient for them to get it from Russia. But let's remember what they're using it for. You're not using it the way we are using it in the United States, where we're powering massive power plants with it. They use it primarily, although not exclusively, but primarily for cooking and industry. I think we just need to get that out there.
Well, I think also the big part of natural gas use is for heating homes.
There's some heating. The solar incentive programs that have happened there have I almost said subsidized it, but that's not exactly what I meant. But there is some home heating, yes, but not to the levels that we use it here in this country. We're still overly dependent on it, but that is not what I just wanted to throw that out there. It's not what you called me for, but please, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just completely sidetracked us.
I just want to throw in the whole energy in America real quick. If you cut off the Mid-Atlantic states and New England, that's predominantly fuel oil, home heating oil, whereas the rest of the country, the primary source of heat is natural gas. Go all the way. The California uses a lot of natural gas for heat. And if it's not natural gas, if it's like a rural house farm, the primary heat source is propane, which is another derivative from natural gas.
Yep. Byproduct, I believe.
That's how Sunoco, before they subsidiary of Energy Transfer, when they started the Mariner East project, was converting 8-inch, 80-year-old petroleum line that from Market Silver, it was an oil refinery, up to Reading, and spread out across PA. They refurbished it. Yeah, right. An 80-year-old pipeline.
Yeah.
And then they got the,
An 80-year-old pipeline buried in the ground. See, it would seem to me the only way you refurbish it is to dig it up and fix it, but that didn't happen, so how it was refurbished, I have very little idea. Not to mention, none of that is profitable, so.
No, that's the whole thing. The PUC ruling, and that was under previous governor, Republican governor.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Corbett.
PUC ruled that because they had the right of way for the 8-inch, 80-year-old line, that they could put the new Mariner East 2, the 20-inch, and Mariner East 2X, the 16-inch new lines, within 5 feet, one on each side of Mariner East 1, the quote refurbished. And that's just, that's ridiculous because it's just for profit. It's just to send, we're not using it. They say, oh, we get some propane down there, and that's used for, heating and stuff. Yeah, a little bit of it. Most of it is just a gas to make plastic out of.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, if we really wanted to be quote-unquote energy independent, which is such a catchphrase now that it's almost lost any real meaning, any serious meaning. But if we wanted to be really quote-unquote energy independent, we would reverse a law that the federal government passed with a Republican Congress and President Obama actually signed for whatever ungodly reason. That it used to be American policy, especially in the mid-70s. It started under Nixon. That any fossil fuel production, I think coal might have been exempt because we had so much of it. But oil and natural gas production in the United States must stay here. It could not be exported. It was illegal. President Obama allowed that to be changed because of the fracking boom, because we quite literally had more gas than we knew what, natural gas, than we knew what to do with. If we really wanted to be so what we've done is we've begun to ship that natural gas overseas. At the same time, and oil for that matter, we actually do ship oil now.
Yep.
We buy oil back into the country from the Saudis. Now, I don't care what party you are. Democratic, Republican, Green, I don't care if you're from Mars. What sense does that make? That rather than keep it here, we export it and then import. The answer is, surprise, I hope you're all sitting down. You'll be shocked at this answer. It's all about profit. Because it makes more money for the Koch industries, the Chevrons, the Sunocos of the world, ExxonMobil especially, to ship overseas. And then we can keep the Saudis happy by buying some of their oil, or at least we think we can. I don't care if you've voted, I don't care if you wear the red hat, if you have the 47 flags on the back of your truck with the smokestacks and everything, even
Even you good folks know that that makes no sense. You know it. You know it. You just refuse to listen to it. That's the difference. You do know it because you're not dumb people. You're not stupid people. You're simply better than what you've been told. You are better than that. See, that's the interesting thing. Well, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things, but that's one interesting thing. That folks on that side of the aisle will continue to hurl at Democrats as if you're Eastern educated elites. Well, first off, I've never known a time where being educated was a bad thing. That said, again, some of the most ridiculous, cartoonish senators are all Ivy Leaguers. But that said, Ivy League education or not, and I'm not Ivy League educated, not even by a long shot. But I know that something as simple as that. Why are we exporting something that we could be using here and then buying that very same thing and importing it into the country? Not to mention the tens of billions, if not hundreds, that we are paying through the expenses that we are accruing through the United States Navy to guard the tanker ships coming out of Saudi Arabia and Yemen and Qatar. It makes no sense. And I think there's a good number of you on the other side of the aisle from me that know it. So really, how many differences do we actually really have? I think there's way less than you have been told. I think there's way less than you have been told. I think we agree on a hell of a lot more than you think if you just listen. Not hear me, but listen to me. And I have an obligation to listen to you. I'm reminded of my friend Robert Smith, who is running for Pennsylvania State House of Representatives in a newly created House district that is predominantly in Allentown. Robert has been on this program. He is a diehard Republican. And he's one of the most decent men I've ever met. And we have ongoing discussions through a course of several different posts and articles that I post on Facebook. And most, if not all, of those discussions will come down to us agreeing on something. And it just leads me to, and him coming to my side of the argument way more often than I going to his. And that doesn't make me smarter than Robert by any means whatsoever. Not at all. It just means that I think we have a hell of a lot more in common as an American populace than we let ourselves believe. When we talk to each other, electronically or in person, in a calm, respectful manner, and we actually listen to each other, not just hear each other, but listen, I think we end up finding out that we agree on a hell of a lot more than we ever thought. And yes, it's like I told Dr. Higgins, Randall and I have talked about this before. There is a percentage of the country that's gone. They don't want to listen. They don't want to hear. They don't want to see. They don't want to learn. They are so buried into what they have been told and instructed and indoctrinated on, and I do not use any of those words lightly. They're lost. They are the Israelites wandering the desert. Period.
Absolutely.
But then there's the Robert Smiths of the world, a genuinely decent man. And I don't mean decent like, he's decent. I mean like decent to his core decent. A good, decent man who will listen. Doesn't always agree, and he doesn't have to. but listens. Not just hears me, not just placates me, but listens. So, go ahead, Randall. Tell me what else is happening down in fabulous Delaware County. Or what else that you wanted to cover. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. The 3 hours went real quick.
Well, it really did, didn't it? Honestly, it really did.
It's so hard for me. I use a one finger on the keypad.
Yeah.
So it takes me a long time, and then excuse me, and then spell check throws something in, and I don't notice
Right,
it.
yeah.
I got to go back and read everything before I actually send it, because spell check will sure as heck mess something up.
Right.
You know, that's why I'd much rather call in and talk, because by the time I get something, you're way past that topic on your show, on your podcast, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I don't have anything else. I just wanted to say howdy and enjoy this nice weather. I mean, down here it's just been the most incredible, beautiful weather weekend on the books.
I got to tell you, Randall, over 4th of July, Kristen and I went to Philadelphia. Not on 4th of July itself. I think we went the Saturday before. I think it was the Saturday before. So it would have been the 2nd. And look, it was brutal hot. Like, really, properly brutal. But it was dry. It was like Vegas kind of heat. I've been to Vegas in the summer. I remember one of the days it was 117 degrees. And this is probably 30 years ago. 25, 30 years ago. Look, 117 is hot. It doesn't matter what the hell the humidity is. 117 is freaking hot. But it is a qualitative difference when it's dry. When the relative humidity is in the 20s percentage, it's just like having a hairdryer blown in your face. Even the couple of weeks that we had here, Randall, I'm not sure if you had the same thing, but even the couple of weeks here in the Lehigh Valley where it was 90 plus every single day and triple digits a couple of those days, it was still dry. 100 degrees is freaking hot no matter what. But when there's almost no humidity, it's not quite the same. It's been a gorgeous summer. It's been hot. It's been darn hot. And we haven't had as much rain as we need or normally would when the temperatures are that high. Usually it gets humid. The atmosphere has to clean out the humidity. That's when you get your rain. We haven't had any because the air has been so dry. It's been a beautiful summer. It's just been too dry.
Well, maybe up there, like Bethlehem and Lehigh Valley, but we sure have a lot of humidity. I mean, it'd be like 98 degrees, but the heat index was 105 because it was 70%, saturated air with moisture. And, when you get that high humidity, our natural cooling system, which is sweating and evaporation,
Yep.
it doesn't work. That's why you can take the higher temperatures in the areas, whether it's Phoenix or Las Vegas, or you can take the higher temperatures because the air is drier. Much
Now
drier.
it got close to 90 around here today. It didn't hit 90. I think it got 87, 88. But the humidity earlier in the day was 28%, as
Right.
low as. Even now at 8:30, it's only 43% because it always gets a little more humid at night because of the dew, etc., etc. The science, a little boring. But I might be able to sleep with the windows open again tonight. I mean, that's crazy. It's August. It's mid-August. I have the windows open. You know that it's changing. You heard me at the beginning, probably. I think you caught it at the beginning. There was always that time when you were a kid. That first night. Now, we know from science this happens gradually. I get it. But there's always kind of that, like, one night or one day where you're out there, you're playing wiffle ball, you're playing Nerf football, you're doing whatever you are with your buddies in the street. At least that's what we did when I was a kid. We weren't, it's different, electronic age, I get it, blah, blah, blah. That said, we would, where you kind of catch yourself and realize, wow, it's dark already. Or, I need a coat. It's getting a little chilly. And you know that the seasons are starting to change. And it happened to me this week. As I mentioned very early on in the program, one night this week I went out to take the recycling up to our collection here. And it was 6:30, and the sun was already back behind the row of houses closest to Kristen and I. And we've actually slept the last 2 nights with the window open. So you know that it's, you're turning around the bend, so to speak.
It's when we have our was it June? What's the date? June 22nd.
June 21st is the longest day of the year.
Yeah, but I'm saying June 22nd. The days are getting shorter.
Yeah, like literally the next day. Yeah, it's a few. It's only literally 2 or 3 minutes, but every day. Yep.
Right, and then you got all of summer, but the days are getting shorter, and I get a little depressed every year because that means we're heading toward winter.
Yeah, I know it, right? Yeah. All right, my friend.
I'll let you go, Jeff.
Let's wrap this. Let's bring this puppy home. Let's land this plane.
You got it.
You take care of yourselves down there, all right?
Okay, and you take care of yourself up there.
And for goodness sake, stay out of trouble. For God's sake. I don't want to keep getting reports about you. Stay out of trouble.
I know. It's just my wife, man, kids.
All right, be good, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. I love that man. I wish more of you should call. This is why I beg you all to call the program, because it's that simple. It's just a conversation. Dr. Higgins did her entire interview with us tonight for just right around 3 hours on the phone. She chose not to do the video, and that's cool. I don't care. I think she called because she was driving home and actually got home in the midst of the program and wanted to get on straight away, which was very kind of her to do. Phone calls are super easy. The phone line is open. It's 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. Just a couple more seconds here. We'll give you a chance to ring in. Remember, for our sisters and brothers and friends and family at hot101.net, Sergeant Mac, Thomas the Villain, the Villain's View, comes up at 8 Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central time. Mr. Mac, Sergeant Mac, the man, is in the St. Louis area, so I believe he's in the Central time zone. So 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. He comes up right after us. Well, if I end, obviously there's a half hour in between, but you get my point. Listen to the fantastic music for a while, and then here he comes at 9. So please stay tuned for him. Here's what's coming up on the program for the next, I guess it would be, as I glance at the calendar, which I know all of you love. I know you're on the edge of your seats. You love when I look at the calendar directly while we're on the air. We are scheduled to have 2 more programs, the 21st and 28th. And then the following week is Labor Day. We will not be with you for Labor Day. Usually holidays like that we take off and let you celebrate and or gather with family or finish up those summer vacations or whatever, last weekends at the shore, whatever it might be, before school really swings into gear. And following Labor Day is when campaigning and attention to campaigns and so on is really going to skyrocket. And I hope that you tune in. Obviously that you tune in to us, but tune in a different way, and that's tune in to integrate yourselves back into the news, current issues, into the campaigns, and so on, because election day will be upon us before you know it. We are under 100 days until general election day. It's coming that quick. So we plan to be with you live next week, the 21st, and the following week, the 28th. And then we will be off for Labor Day. Guests at this moment are as of yet unconfirmed. As you know, we cast a very wide net. I have invited literally dozens of candidates onto the program, and I'm just waiting for them to come back. We do have a couple scheduled for after Labor Day, but for next week, the 21st and 28th, we are so far sans guest. But we'll work on it. Fern reminds me, 85 days. Thank you for counting, because big numbers, I get lost. 85 days till general election day. I mean, that's really not a lot. Sounds like a lot, but it's really not. It's going to be here before you know it. That means we're only 40 for us here in the Commonwealth. We have an ordinance rule law. You cannot put campaign signs out on public properties. Private property, you can put them anywhere and anytime you want. Public, you can't do more than 45 days before election day. That means for us here in Pennsylvania, we're only 40 days away from the campaign sign farms to start growing up out of the ground very quickly. So we sincerely hope that you will be with us next week, 21st, following week, 28th. We'll take a deep breath, enjoy ourselves over Labor Day, and then be back with you on September 11th. A heavy, heavy day. The 11th anniversary. We thank you, of course, for being here. Very, very much. Flying solo tonight. Kristen out on the road. And George on the road as well with family. We will welcome them back, expect to welcome them back next week. So again, guests not quite yet scheduled for next week or the following, but September is looking pretty good. Any state level or federal level candidate anywhere in the United States, you are welcome here from any party. If you are your party's nominee, if you are the Republican nominee or the Democratic nominee, you are welcome here. We all know I'm a Democrat. We all know I'm progressive, blah, 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 blah. If you're a Republican nominee and you want to come on this program, you are welcome. Again, I think we're going to agree on a hell of a lot more than you might think. We will absolutely disagree on stuff, guaranteed. But you will be treated fairly. You'll be treated with respect. We don't do circus, sideshow stuff here. Mr. Mastriano is absolutely welcome here. 100%. Ms. Scheller is absolutely welcome here. I'm not holding my breath, believe me. But they're welcome. Yeah, we're going to disagree. We're going to get tough questions. They will be serious and deep conversations. But you are welcome here. The free PA folks, I don't know who the hell they're trying to free Pennsylvania from, but they're welcome here too. And here's the fun part, they know it. The Commonwealth Foundation, which is a branch, is a Koch network. There's a Commonwealth Foundation equivalent in all 50 states. Some cities have them. College campuses have them. They're all paid for by the Kochs. They have been invited to this program. I actually had one of their folks accept the invitation. All we needed to do was agree on a date. Suddenly she doesn't answer me anymore. I don't think that came from her either. Because again, she and I would have multiple conversations across Facebook and agree on things. I think it's her bosses that wouldn't let her here. What a shame. It's not just a shame sometimes when we don't talk to each other. It's a shame when we're afraid to. And she knows who I'm talking about. Again, I think she's a good and decent human being. She believes what she believes, and she has every right in the world to do that. But if you believe it so much, you should be able to come here and defend it. I think she's willing. I don't think her bosses are. That's sad to me. Because again, we're not going to agree on everything. I think we'll agree on a lot more than anybody would think. That about wraps it up for us. So again, let me remind you, if you missed any of tonight's live program, you can find us on the Facebook feeds everywhere that has allowed us to post. Just scroll a little bit for it, but you'll find it. If you don't have the patience to do that, check out our YouTube channel. That Other Side of Information. All of our recorded episodes are right there. I even remembered to do a TikTok tonight. Quickly through the social media. Twitter, @ThatKennedyTalk. Email, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, TikTok. That Other Side of Information. We will see you next week. What did I just say? The 21st. They're all 7s. The Sundays are 7s. You think I would know that? You think I'd be able to add 7? That said, we will. Nobody else called, so now I'm going to say goodbye. We will be here next week. We will be here on the 28th. We'll find a guest somewhere along the way. Either that, or I will let Kristen talk to me and show me how not so smart I am. For Whitney, Marquise, Andrew, and Taekwon, my family at TCP. For DJ Lex, DJ Earl, and the family that is Hot101.net. For the woman who is responsible for getting me on the air and giving me the confidence to do this show, my sister, April Riddick. And of course, for Kristen, my better half, I am Jeff Kennedy. We're deeply grateful to every single one of you for being here tonight, Dr. Higgins, and every single one of you that have listened. Please continue to share the program. That's how we grow. Until next week, please take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next week.